Merry meet! I'm Gory B Movie, and tonight on Gory Talk, I've got my friend Kim Douthit. She's a true crime expert, and we're going to talk about Belle Gunness. Now, I hadn't heard about her until Kim brought her up to me, but holy balls, we're going down a rabbit hole tonight. She's one of America's most notorious female serial killers, and there's so much to talk about. So let's bring on Kim, who is one half of the Ghoulish Tendencies podcast, where they talk about true crime. You guys talk about hauntings. You guys talk about lots of stuff.
All kinds of things. Yes. Anything kind of macabre we'll cover.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, thank you for coming back. I'm super excited. We've got Danny in the chat. We got Brandon. And I have so much to ask you about this. Like, oh my goodness. I cannot believe that we don't talk about Belle Gunness more because it's a really scary story. And she's terrible. So,
Yes.
And where's the head? We'll get to that.
So many questions.
Okay. So let's just dive right in. So an overview of Belle Gunness, if you will.
So Belle Gunness, she was a Norwegian immigrant, and her birth name was actually, and forgive me, there's a lot of names in this. There's a lot of Norwegians, and I'm going to say all their names wrong. Her birth name was actually Brynhild Paulsdottir Storseth.
I can see why she changed it.
It just rolls off the tongue.
It really
does. I do like Brynhild, though. That's fun.
That sounds like a good, like, I mean, if you're going to have a farm, that sounds like I can hold my own.
And she could, too. She was she was a strong lady. I mean, you can kind of even tell in that picture, but later pictures, like, she was solid.
Yeah.
There was even talk at one point when she was working her farm later on that she could heft like just full-grown pigs. She'd just pick them up and put them in the wagon. And like, I respect that. Me
too.
But yeah, she was born in 1859 in Selbu, Norway, and she immigrated to Chicago in 1881. So she came here. Her sister was already here. She wanted to kind of be with family. There was a rumor when she was back in Norway, and this is those fun things, like she was in this tiny, tiny, tiny little town, right? You can, yeah. So that sign right there is basically like, yes, Brynhild was born here. And her homestead picture, which is, I think, the next picture after that, it's a horrible picture because it's from, the 1860s or whatever. But she had this tiny, tiny little farm that her family grew up in. And the rumor is that when she was 17 or 18 years old, she got pregnant. But then a man attacked her and kicked her in the abdomen, which caused her to miscarry.
Huh.
We do not actually know if that is true or if that is the lore that kind of got associated with her after the fact,
because she couldn't have kids, right? So is that their explanation for possibly why?
That is what, or that, because there's big allegedly, because again, we do not know for sure. Allegedly, she changed a lot, and that the man who kicked her died shortly after of stomach cancer.
I mean, like you do. I mean,
yeah,
he also had it coming, so.
He had it coming. But this was also a time period when a lot of poisons could be mistaken for other things.
This is true.
The cops know I'm talking about Belle Gunness.
Every time you're on here, I feel like it just adds to the ambiance.
They're like, she's talking
Seattle
about her
life, guys, all right? She's on the other side of the mountains.
It's true. I live in what affectionately some refer to as Pill Hill. So this is a common sound in my neighborhood. So she came to the United States in 1881. She was like 21 years old. Her sister Alina was there, had come like 10 years prior. And Alina changed her name to Nellie because, Chicago at this point was like, I don't know. I think one historian said that it was like 80% of the population was foreign born.
Yeah.
Oh, that's her little, you can barely see it. That's her
farm.
farm. It's like the one that's way up on the hill. That's
Yeah,
her tiny
her
little
life was
farm.
supposed to be pretty boring there. Like, didn't they call her, like, someone called her, like, the stick girl? Because that's, like, what she had to do all day is pick up sticks.
Pick up sticks, work the farm, nothing particularly exciting. And like the kind of small town where there's nowhere to really go. There's nothing, you're never gonna get money, you're never gonna grow out of what you're born into.
There's no future. Where her sister, like, she got married, she moved to the United
Mhm.
States, and they basically had, like, a little Norway,
They
right?
did, yeah. That there was so many little of these little pocket neighborhoods that were just full of immigrants. And Belle kind of wanted something better, so she changed her name. That's when she first changed her name to Belle Peterson. Little bit easier to pronounce than Brynhild Paulsdatters.
I like Brynhild, though. I
I
mean,
really
she
like
lost
Brynhild.
something there.
And emigrated to the United States. Now it's debated exactly how tall she was. She was somewhere between 5'7" and 6 foot,
Wow.
which is quite a spread. But again, she was a big woman. She was a farm woman. She grew up on the farm. She got to the United States, and what a lot of women had as an option, if you were, I mean, also just a woman, but especially immigrant women, servant work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could do laundry, you could sew, you could be a house cleaner. But again, nothing glamorous, nothing that's going to elevate you. And Nellie, her sister, would actually talk about this after everything came out. She would say, her quote was, "My sister was insane on the subject of money. She would do anything to get it." And that's Nellie actually as a little old
Yeah.
lady.
From what I read, she seems like a pretty nice, normal person. So I guess this isn't genetic.
Normal. Yeah. Emphasis on normal.
She just wanted to have a better life, have a
Yeah.
husband, have some children,
Have some children.
quiet life.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's that whole land of opportunity. Come to America, you're going to have more opportunities than if you stay in your country. Nellie would also talk about Belle's relationship with children. She was quoted in an article at one point of saying she had a great love of children. Almost every Norwegian Sunday school child in Chicago knew of her kindness, which is really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That her early reputation was this loving mother figure.
And you have to put this in context, guys. She's like the Eileen Wernes at the turn of the century. So, like, having people say that she's kind is really bizarre because this woman killed a lot of people, including children.
Including children.
Yes. So,
and that's
bizarre.
something that gets debated about a lot is where exactly did that switch happen? Because she wasn't just putting it on, or I mean, maybe she was, but I have a hard time believing something didn't kind of start to push her more and more there.
I do want to say hi to Tatum in the chat. Welcome. I don't think I've seen you here before, but I hope you are having a good time hanging out with us. And yeah, I have some questions. Like, psychologically, it seems like, you know, we're just speculating here. We're not psychologists, guys. We're speculating. But to me, it seems like Belle really wanted something of her own. She wanted children of her own. She wanted a home of her own. She liked control. And maybe that's part of why she liked children so much, because children are under your control.
And that's a very, very interesting possibility, too. And I also do think she became very highly money motivated.
Yes.
Obsessive almost. And I think as she started to realize what husbands and children could get her, that also impacted her way of thinking.
And well, let's look at how a woman becomes successful at this time. We're talking late 1800s, early 1900s here. So the likelihood, you know, we talked about this last month when we talked about Lizzie Borden, the likelihood of a woman owning her own property, it would either have to be inherited or your husband died. So even that, like, that's maybe the goal, but it's very unlikely. And you have a better chance of being successful if perchance, like, your son is very wealthy and takes care of you, or your husband is wealthy. But your best bet wasn't going to school, it was marrying well.
It was marrying well. Uh, and laws varied from state to state, but property ownership, if you were a woman, could get real dicey. She did marry in 1884. Her first husband, a man named Mads Ditlev Anton Sorensen.
That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. He was 5 years older than Belle. He worked at the Mandel Brothers department store as a night watchman. And she really, I mean, this didn't seem like much of a love match. She wanted to know what could be provided for her, and from all descriptions, Mads was kind and loving, but she seemed to view him very much as convenient. As this is,
Yeah.
I want more. I want
Maybe
a better
stepping
life,
stone.
a stepping stone. And she also did at this point want children.
Yes.
But she struggled to conceive.
And I should have mentioned this in the intro, but there's a reason we're talking about her over Valentine's Day weekend, because she's got a lot of, I'm blanking on the name, but nicknames. So, Hell's Princess is one of them, but also the Lonely Hearts Killer, right?
The Lonely Hearts Killer.
She's gonna kill a lot of guys. And hey, Jerry, what's up?
A lot of guys.
So, yeah, this is the first that we're going to talk about, but something else I read about her that I thought was kind of like one of the first clues that there's something not quite right about her is Nellie had, at this time, had a lot of children. And so Belle was enjoying being an auntie. And at one point, she apparently asked Nellie if she could have her, I think her youngest child that she'd kind of bonded with. And Nellie did think about it, and she did talk it over with her husband. And finally, she was like, no, I can't give you one of my kids. That's like, I love you, but that's my kid. And that created a huge break between the sisters.
Yeah. And I do wonder how much her own infertility too made her struggle a bit with like that does impact you psychologically,
especially at this time, because at the time, let's look at what women are considered worth. Your looks to help you get a good husband. They didn't care about how much schooling you had, and your ability to have children. That was a huge thing. You have to have children to continue your generation. Like a lot of families would have multiple children so you could run a business or run a farm. If you can't do that, then what do you have to contribute as a woman?
And infant mortality was high too. So you assume, you have X amount of children, and then not all of them are going to live past the age of 10.
This is very true. Also, hey, Fiore, welcome.
So she, her relationship with Nellie didn't really recover after that, but she did adopt an 8-month-old girl named Jenny.
Yes.
And Jenny, her mother died and her father left. And Jenny, I believe, is the older girl in that picture. Yes. Jenny got left in Belle's care by the father. And this was actually pretty common when a mother would die if a father wasn't. I mean, this is also why a lot of men whose wives died in childbirth or who had children remarried so quickly, or would put ads out, widower seeking woman to help with 3 children.
Yeah, it's like a governess you don't have to pay for.
You don't have to pay for one. And it was that give and take of like, I can provide you with security. I can provide you with a home. I have an income of this, and you will help me raise my children and be my wife.
But yeah, like marriages seemed, I mean, I'm sure there were many marriages that were based on love, but a lot of them seemed like they were very transactional. Like, this is what I have to offer. And then as the woman, this is how much my family can offer. I have this kind of dowry. Yeah, I can have children. So
that's what so she does now have like this child, which is lovely, but she's still not really happy with her station. So by 1894, her husband Mads and Belle, they had saved up enough money and they bought a candy store.
What are we looking at here? Is this the candy store, or is this where they lived?
No, that was the department store where her husband worked. That's where he was the security guard.
This house is cool. I want to live here.
That's the home they moved to in the suburbs. So they bought
This is Kim's slideshow, and I'm just looking at it, being like a baby bear trying to learn how to walk. What is this one do? What's this? I'm trying to interject skeleton. Also, Quirk's here. Good to see you, buddy.
It keeps it interesting, though. It keeps us on our toes. Because it's also like, how well do I remember what each of these slides are? That's the other thing. Because I labeled some of them, but a lot of them aren't labeled. Because, you know, why make it too easy?
So they have a candy store. So they have their own business. I mean, I think by a lot of immigrant standards, she's doing all right. She's been able to adopt a child. Like, she did actually adopt Jenny, right?
I don't know that it was ever like
official. I know she's referred to as like a foster kid a lot.
Yeah, because she was given to Belle, and Dad never came back and was like, I want her back now. So even she's referred to sometimes as foster daughter, sometimes as the adopted daughter, but she very much was Belle's child. Like, the only mother this girl knew was Belle.
I feel like a lot of female children at the time were not as prioritized as male children, because they're not going to, I think, even though a lot of girls obviously can work on a farm and can work in a store and stuff, I think a lot of times they were like, well, a boy's more useful for that kind of thing, for working, and he can, provide more for the family, whereas your daughter, you're going to try to hopefully marry her into a good family.
Marry her. She can collect eggs and sew, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the candy store, though, unfortunately, it was not successful.
It's a bummer.
It's a super bummer. But when they were, it caught fire.
Did it now?
It caught fire right when it was starting to get really financially unsuccessful.
Let's see. Like, that sounds awfully convenient, doesn't it?
It's, and the only people there was Belle and a then 3-year-old Jenny.
Yes, I do remember reading, and this became kind of a running thing. They run out all covered in soot and stuff, and help, the store's on fire.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
She said later, I think it was a kerosene lamp had exploded.
Like they did.
But strangely enough, there was no evidence of glass or like a broken lamp.
This is before we have, arson inspection. We just, and also, kerosene lamps. This did happen back in the day. I mean, we talked a couple streams ago, we talked about, Seattle burning to the ground. And the other thing, she's in Chicago, right? Chicago had also burned to the ground, and that was a really serious thing. Any kind of fire was treated with the utmost, priority, like get out there fast, because Chicago, a large portion of it had burned to the ground. So this was not an uncommon thing at this time in America. And so, you could get away with it.
No one's going to question this too hard. And they got a payout. They got an insurance payout, and they also sold the store. And that was how they were able to move to the suburbs, was after getting that insurance money and selling the store. They were able to buy that lovely home. And they're now the parents of more children. Belle is in her late 30s at this point. With her fertility struggles, it's doubtful that she gave birth to any of them herself. Records are kind of shaky. 2 of the children died actually when they were only a few months old. Of acute colitis. That's kind of
tough too, because a lot of people speculate, did she do something to the children? But infant mortality rates were pretty high at the time. There were so many things, and we didn't have, a lot of the vaccines and stuff that we have today for a lot of childhood illnesses.
Well, acute colitis, which they allegedly died of, presents with nausea, fever, diarrhea, lower abdominal pain, and cramping, which is a thing that happened. It is also symptoms of a lot of different forms of poison.
And you see this, like when you look at modern stories today where children were victims of Munchausen by proxy, the same kind of thing. So I definitely see why there's speculation there. And of course, we don't know for sure.
They were also insured, both the children.
Oh, that's gross.
And so the insurance company paid out when both those children died. But I mean, to your point, infant mortality rate is high. It's easy to speculate. but there are a lot who point to those two as some of her earliest victims.
And I think it's entirely possible. Like I said, I'm just speculating here. I am not a psychologist, but when I read about Belle Gunness, I read a woman who seems to have issues with control. She wants to be the person who makes the decisions. And unfortunately, she lives in a period of time where she is not given a lot of that kind of agency. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not a maternal love. I think it's a need to control that turns her towards children. Because even, you know, her children like Jenny and stuff, she treated them pretty horribly.
And it's hard to say because she was not she wasn't a weak-willed woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew how to manipulate a situation. And tended to, like, I mean, even the man her first husband, I don't want to say he was weak-willed, but he was somebody who she very easily could bend to her will.
Yeah.
So, I think she did, she was able to exert control over a lot of situations.
Yeah. I think that's probably the appeal of Mads, is that he is somebody who could be manipulated, who would listen to her.
Now her other two children, so she had Jenny still.
Yes.
And then Axel and what was the other kid's name? The other kid that died, that was Carolyn. That's right. Carolyn and Axel. And then Myrtle and Lucy. Those were now her other two children. And this picture, so the older one is Jenny. And the younger one, I believe it's Lucy, but it's been listed, depending on the source you read, it does get listed as both. But Lucy is who I see listed most frequently with that. By 1897, her husband had this opportunity to go west and look for gold. So he'd be out in Alaska for a year mining for gold. And this seemed like a really good opportunity because Belle's like, you mean you'd go for a year? That sounds great. I love it. Go, honey, go. And she was going to get paid like a monthly fee since she wouldn't have her main breadwinner at home. So she's like, yes, please, go, get out.
Yeah, I think honestly her ideal life would be having a mess of children and not having a husband. Like, I think she wanted to be a widow.
No. So in agreeing to this expedition, there was a lot of money that had to be put out up front as collateral. They used their house. This was a mistake because it turned out this whole thing was a fraud.
Okay.
And there was a lawsuit over the deed of their home, and where Mads and Belle ultimately were able to keep their house, this did put a huge dent in these dreams of wealth. And now, oh no, I'm still stuck with this husband.
Yes. And this is where so there's something else about Jenny that I think is really interesting. Is in a lot of these early stories about things that happened with Belle, Jenny is usually involved, as in this person who runs to the neighbors and listens that something goes wrong. And we had a similar situation. I can't remember if it's here or not, where the house is on fire. Is that this house, or is this coming up soon?
No, that's not yet. We're not.
Okay,
yet.
We're not there yet. All right. I'm not the expert. Kim's the expert.
They did. So their house did catch fire in April 10th of 1900.
There's one house that caught on fire, and I remember it did not burn down, and Belle did not seem very pleased.
Yeah, the structure was saved, but they lost a bunch of their belongings.
Right. Yeah, she said.
And they got another insurance payout for it.
Uh-huh. She insures everything.
She insures everything. Now, speaking of that, she insures her husband, which, I mean, that makes sense. Like, life insurance is a smart thing to have when you have children, when you have a wife. Especially this time. There was two policies. So the policy that he had out on himself was about a $2,000 policy in 1900, which is about $77,000 by today's standards.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah. It's to expire on July 30th of 1900. And Mads was like, you know what? I want to go with a new insurance company for this next round. So he was going to let the policy lapse. He was going to get this new one good for $3,000, which is almost $116,000 by today's standards. And the policies overlapped by one day.
Yes. And wouldn't you know, isn't that the one day that he died?
Yes. On Monday, July 30th, a doctor is summoned to the home of Belle and Mads. And there is Mads. He is dead on his bed. Dr. Seuss.
I love it.
The family physician comes, and according to Belle, Mads had been ill, and that he'd gotten home from work, and that he said he had, this is a quote, a fearful headache. And she gave him the quinine powder, which you can see there. That's one of the little bottles. And went to get dinner ready, and he's lying down. She goes up to check on him, and he's just dead. He's just dead on the bed.
Dead on the bed. You should write for Dr. Seuss. Like,
I really should. So the physician is like, okay, well, maybe you gave him the wrong medication by mistake. That could happen.
You're a woman. You don't know how to read
You're
stuff.
a woman. You're so delicate. Reading's hard. Reading's really hard, guys. Well, and specifically thought that maybe he got morphine instead.
I also think the Belle Gunness story is very much a cautionary tale of don't underestimate people, because they can be a lot more dangerous than they initially seem.
Exactly. And he was like, well, can I see the bottle just so we can confirm? And she's like, I threw it away. It's gone. Maybe she set it on fire too. I don't know. I could never figure out why did
she love to set stuff on fire. Girl's a firebug.
She is. So the family doctor was suspicious. But he's also like, well, I have been treating him for some heart issues. And without really anything else to go on, they're like, I guess he died of a cerebral hemorrhage. And so they didn't perform an autopsy because it was considered unnecessary.
And weren't they really big about not cutting into bodies if you didn't have to at the time?
Yeah, well, and I mean, culturally too, there's certain religious things that can start to get, it wasn't deemed a necessary practice unless you didn't have much choice or unless you really thought it was a crime. And this is still, I mean, this is the early 1900s, so it's not, the practice was still considered a bit unsavory at times too. Silence again. They're like, you're talking about dead bodies.
I also want to say hi to Adam, who's joining us here. The cops are once again coming because Kim's talking about spooky, scary stuff from
no one should ever look at the pictures on my laptop. I have so many crime scene photos on my computer. It's alarming.
And now, thanks to you, so do I.
It's great, isn't it?
You send them to me.
I do. Man, I got some bad ones. I've done some real, like, some gruesome cases before. I have some that I'm like, if anyone even accidentally stumbled across this folder, the things they're going to think of me.
Yeah. So right now, I like that we're doing stuff from the turn of the century where I don't think there's any survivors still alive. Maybe eventually we'll move up. But for right now, this is my safe space because I feel like this is a little easier to
it's respectfully blurry.
Exactly. And we can speculate a little bit more too because the forensic science just wasn't there yet.
No. And I mean, that's understandable. Forensic science, it's funny because some of the cases we'll cover on Ghoulish sometimes, we'll get really up in arms about how the police missed something. And even in the 1970s, we have to remind ourselves, it was the 70s. They didn't have, DNA testing wasn't a thing until really very recently.
Well, and we talked about that when we talked about Ted Bundy a while ago, too, is not only was this stuff scarce, but there also wasn't a lot of sharing of information across state lines, which is how I think he got away with it for so long.
Well, at that point, DNA evidence wasn't a thing yet. It was Gary Ridgway, when they arrested him, it was 2001, and he had been a suspect as the Green River Killer since, I don't know, he was first questioned in 83 or 84. He was questioned real early on. but they didn't have the necessary evidence to ever do anything. But the Green River Killer left evidence, DNA evidence at the first couple crime scenes, and they were finally able to test it, but not until 2001.
Yeah,
so
which
it's
is interesting because we're getting a lot of updates on a lot of these cases now that we have this kind of testing.
And a lot of the cold cases they've been going through and trying to retest. Like, it's fascinating. But it's and it's nice that some of these cold cases we're finally able to get some closure on. I cover a lot of these on Ghoulish just because I personally find them really interesting. And actually we'll get there, but they did try to do some DNA testing in the Belle Gunness case.
Yeah, so I think that's what we'll talk about, like, once we get through her history, is maybe the updates to the case. But are we to Indiana yet?
We're almost there.
We're almost there. Okay, we're back to the battle. I get Kim off track a lot.
It's okay. This case is so bonkers. It's easy to get off track on too. But yeah, so his family, Mads' family, was also kind of hella suspicious. And I think this had a little bit to do with why she was finally like, maybe it's time to move somewhere different. Because she, at this point, she had a lot of insurance payouts. She'd had 2 children die under her care. Her husband has died. A bunch of things have burnt down. It's time to go and build a farm.
Yeah.
So she was contacted by someone. She was contacted by someone who had a property in LaPorte, Indiana.
Aha. Now we're here. We're here.
Now we're here. Yes. November of 1901, she packed up her family. She moved to Indiana. And her new property was somewhere between 42 to 48 acres, that's a good size farm. In fact, I think the next picture on there might be the farm.
Yeah. Also nice to see you, Ghostface Studio Productions.
Oh, hello. So she became acquainted with a former boarder who had been a boarder of hers when she was still in Illinois, named Peter Gunness.
And that's where we get the last name.
That's where we get the last name. So he had been a boarder of Mads and Belle, and then married a woman who would later die in childbirth, the birth of her second child. Nothing brings people together like the death of spouses and insurance payouts. So they were like, hey man, I don't have a husband. You don't have a wife. Should we do a thing? And they got married in April 1st, 1902, like you do. And that is how she would become Belle Gunness.
And she stuck with that.
And she stuck with it.
And she just picked the last name she liked. She had options, guys. She had options. She could have gone with a lot of them. Or maybe after this one, she just thought there was no point in changing her last name anymore.
It's interesting, too, because if she was trying to put some distance between her old identity and her new one she was establishing in Indiana, remarrying and changing her name was a good call. Because anyone who wanted to come questioning about her first husband's death or any of the other children, if they're looking for, it's not like you can Google who got married recently. Mm-hmm. So within 5 days of their marriage, Peter's 7-month-old daughter would die.
I feel really bad smiling and stuff, but the audacity of Belle Gunness gets me every time. This woman, she does not care.
The balls on this woman. The massive titanium balls.
She's not an admirable figure by any means, but it is impressive.
I feel bad because I get gleeful talking about her sometimes because you can't, she's horrible. She does horrible things. She murders people. She murders children, but
she had gumption. She had all the audacity. It's hard not to be fascinated.
And that's where you're also just if this woman had been born in a different time, when she could have put that energy into the world slightly differently.
She could have been like the lady from Devil Wears Prada or something. Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows?
She would have been I don't know, a Kardashian or something.
She had that kind of drive where you're in a different
CEO
time with different opportunities. Yeah. So the cause of death was edema of the lungs, which is excess fluid in the lungs. And wouldn't you know it, she was alone in the house with Belle when she died. Which, yeah. Wah, wah.
Let's not leave Belle alone with anybody.
It's not great. It's not great. And Belle was about to become a widow again.
Oh my goodness. Belle.
On December, On December 16th of 1902, Swan Nicholson, which is a great name. Swan. I love it. It was a
like
neighbor.
Bella Swan, from Twilight, the treasure of our state.
We're so proud.
We are very proud.
A neighbor of Belle and Peter's, that was Swan, he was awoken by Belle's now 12, Jenny is now 12 years old, banging on the door, saying they need to come help because, quote, Papa's burned himself.
Yeah, Jenny's like the town crier. Like I
really
feel
is.
like that's why she's lasts longer than a lot of the other children, because she's a bit older, so she doesn't require as much work to care for.
True,
and she's useful. It's like Belle's got her trained.
Well, and she was Belle's first child. Which we'll get there. So the neighbor comes.
Guys, there's so much more. Like, if you're like, oh, like she's killed a couple husbands, like,
oh,
we're getting there. This shit's about to get insane.
It's about to get, yeah. So the neighbor gets to the farmstead. He finds Belle hysterical and Peter dead. He's lying face down in the parlor. He was, quote, laying on his nose and blood on the floor. There was a wound on the back of his head. His nose was broken and a doctor was called, but like, no, dude was dead. And then a later inquest, and like, this is like pages that I will not read this whole thing because it's pages of her talking, but it's bonkers. So according to Belle, she, her husband's tired. He's going to go to bed. And he picks up his pipe. He goes into the kitchen because he always put his shoes back of the stove to warm. And I guess he must have been back to get hold of a pair of shoes. And all at once I heard a terrible noise. And I dropped my paper and I went. And when I came out there, he was raising up from the floor and putting both hands on his head. I had a big bowl with brine on the back of the stove, because of course. And I'd washed the meat grinder and wiped it off and put it on a shelf to dry. And Mama, he says, I burned me so terrible. And so she thinks he's like, oh, I don't know what happened. He burnt himself. Oh, no. She says, you should lie down. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I should lie down. And so she goes upstairs to check on the children. And then she says, I hear him calling Mama, which also, okay, can we talk about, I know this is a thing, but it always weirds me out when grown men call their wives Mama or Mother or Mom or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's with the children. She comes downstairs and apparently he's on the ground and he's saying, oh, Mama, my head. I don't know what the matter is with my head. Raise your hand if you think you know what's wrong with his head. Yep. So this is where she sends Jenny. She's like, Jenny, girl, go get a neighbor, go get a doctor, go get something, because I don't know, something's wrong with your papa. And then he says, Mama, I guess I'm going to die. This is all in her inquest. This is all stuff she says. So the neighbors get there, and Belle is like, he's unconscious. He's unconscious, y'all. He's not. The doctor is like, no. This is like
she's trying to write her own Edgar Allan Poe story, but it's just not working.
And this is again where I'm like, girl, pull a Stephen King. Put all this to paper. This
she honestly probably could have. I mean, she could weave a tale.
There was, I will say, because I went through some of the papers of this time, and there was a newspaper. It was at the Indianapolis Journal from December 17th of 1902. And I guess there'd been a string of weird crimes that had been happening. And so the article written about it said a carnival of crime seems to be reigning in LaPorte County, which, carnival of crime, that's fantastic. But for a while, they said, okay, according to officers, there are strong indications of foul play in the death of Peter Gunness, who lived with his wife and her 4 children. The official cause of death was due to shock and pressure caused by fracture and hemorrhage. He was bludgeoned on the head. He's bludgeoned on the head. That's how he died. So they're like, okay, so we're trying to follow this lady. How did your husband get hurt? And she says, and this is my favorite explanation ever, because remember she talked about washing that meat grinder because she'd used it. And she goes, I don't know, doctor. I picked up the meat grinder from the floor. I think it must have tumbled on him one way or another. That's what I think, but so I didn't see it.
We're doing Edgar Allan Poe with a splash of Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Or maybe so like Three Stooges. Just
a meat grinder.
How convenient that she put it there and then it fell unexpectedly.
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't look up the statistics for how many people each year are killed by meat grinders falling on their heads, but I feel like I can say with authority it is a low number.
I feel like so. I feel like I agree. It's probably not the same as like people who get crushed by vending machines every year.
Right. I actually thought that when I was like,
really?
This is a machine.
You and I are like, weirdly in sync sometimes.
So the thing is, they interviewed Jenny, and her story matches exactly what Bella's saying, but that's the problem. It matches exactly.
Which is like, it's like she's got Jenny trained. Like I can almost see her saying, okay, this is the story. This is what you're going to do.
This is what happened to Papa.
Yes.
And you're going to repeat what happened to Papa.
And Jenny's good at that. I mean, because she is innocent. And so she's going to look terrified. She is obviously upset, but she's also very obedient. So she's going to say exactly what Belle tells her to say.
And it's her mom. Like, of course she's going to say it. Like, it's her mom. So, like, this doctor, though, was legit suspicious. He was just like, y'all. So he changes tactics. He asks Jenny, were you there the day your other father died?
Oof. And again, it makes you want, like, to go back in time and have these people who were suspicious of her, because there were some people who early on were suspicious and exchanged notes, but there just was not documentation or exchange of information like there is today.
Yeah. Well, and even just missing persons reports, you know, it wasn't So, he's questioning her about Mads's death, but unfortunately, Jenny was young enough that she really couldn't add anything and really couldn't remember.
Adam's comment makes me think, yeah, like, I feel this was modern day. The TV fell on him. Well, not modern day, because now TVs are thin, but like in the 90s, it would have been like, oh, the TV.
Big, It's Scream all over again.
Exactly. And apparently that didn't even kill him, so.
I mean.
I don't think so.
So Belle's neighbor, Swan, he testifies that he hadn't seen any blood on the couch, which is important because her whole thing about how he laid down.
He would have had blood on the couch.
There would have been blood on the couch. But he also said, God bless men. Just, sorry, men are lovely, but like,
we have a lot of men in the chat. Let's not.
I love that. Okay, God bless men in the early 1900s because he said he didn't think Belle could have murdered her husband.
It's like I said before, it's not that they're stupid. They just underestimate her to such a degree.
Yes. Cause these like, cause woman. Who would have, cause woman. That being said, he had apparently said to his family days before it looked suspicious and like murder. So everybody's, I don't know, I guess people are thinking, you know, there's these crimes going on. Somebody broke into their home while the children and Belle are there and, you know, hit this guy with a meat grinder because why not? But even though papers were writing this was kind of strange, Belle was exonerated. And the doctor's statement, which we have here, after having examined the body and heard the evidence, we so find that the deceased came to his death by the accidental falling of the auger part of a sausage mill, falling from the heating shelf of a cook stove to his kitchen, striking him on the back of the head.
Did you not read this after you typed it up, sir?
But woman. But woman. Oh. But it's the Lizzie Borden of it all, right? It's because this is very same time
It's
period.
very, if you guys missed last month's discussion on Lizzie Borden, there are a lot of similarities here, and I think namely because they take place around the same time.
Right
It's
around
like
the same time.
the turn of the 18th century to the or 1800s to the 1900s.
Early 1900s here. And this is super suspicious, but lady.
Well, like Adam says, they don't shit and they don't kill.
Exactly.
And we fart rainbows and
we
unicorn
fart
dust,
rainbows and sparkle.
which is actually one of the best parts about being a chick, right?
Oh man, I love the sparkle. Sparkles are great.
Every time.
Every time. So guess who was also insured?
Is he insured, Kim? Say it ain't so.
I know, this is going to be a shock to everyone listening at home. So she's not implicated. She gets some money. Now, thankfully, Peter's family was like, this is hella sus. His brother, Gust, also fabulous name, Gust. He was so concerned for his niece, Swanhilde, who was...
What's with all the bird names?
Well, I mean, they're Norwegian.
Fair.
Swanhilde. But that was Peter's remaining daughter. And after the 7-month-old died in Belle's care, and now the husband's dead, and there's just this kid. And he also knew that Peter's life insurance policy was actually supposed to go to Swanhilde. So he goes to the farm to be like, what's up? And also, where's my niece? Is she okay? Mm-hmm. And Belle's like, oh, no. I invested the money. And he's like, okay, can I see some proof? And she's like, no, I don't. Do you want to stay and manage the farm with me? And he's like, no, thank you. No, thank you, lady. And he stayed at the farm for a couple days, and then in the middle of the night made off with the kid.
Which kid was this?
Swanhilde. So that his
so that one she didn't have very long.
His niece, yeah, Peter's one remaining child.
Honestly, probably one of the best things he could have done for her.
Yes, and I applaud Gust and Peter's family for being like, no, we don't care. We're not doing this. So
yeah, I'm glad
that saved her life. There's no doubt in my mind.
Wingman anytime.
Yeah. So Belle gets away with it, and a few months later, this is baby boy Philip appears.
I feel like the little boys don't last in this family very long.
They don't. Well, what's extra weird
do you think
is
there's something with Belle where, do you think she has an issue with men? She did kill more men than she killed women.
Yes, she has an issue, of course. But what's funny, she has an issue with men, but we're going to meet a character later who she was also getting hot and heavy with.
Yeah.
And had a very different relationship with. And I mean, coming back to that power thing, I do wonder if part of why her relationship with him.
What the heck? Sorry, I try not to interrupt you to talk about the comments, but Adam, really? That's what we're doing today? We're going to talk about the size of the children's heads? Do you realize how big my head is? And my brother's is even worse. He couldn't even lift up his head off his shoulder until he was like 4.
It's because kids have to grow into it.
I feel attacked.
But anyway, so baby Philip shows up, and Belle's like, yeah, I gave birth to this child.
Right.
And so the midwife came, and the baby was already born and clothed and clean, and also she was 43 and looked too old to be a newborn, but yeah, she gave birth to this child. So now we have baby Philip, and Peter is gone, alas. Farm work doesn't stop. So Belle, she's used to hard labor. She's a strong woman. You can see, I mean, again, she's a strong lady. She's tall, she's strong, she's working her farm, she's planting, she's harvesting, she's milking the cows. She is very good at butchering pigs.
Oh, yeah.
Butchering pigs.
And Paris Spooky, thank you for joining us. We were talking about one of America's most notorious female serial killers today, and you're right here. It's about to get good.
About to get good.
Or at least messed up. Oh, boy.
So it's 1904. Her farm is doing quite well. So well, she needs more help.
Mm-hmm.
What does a twice widowed woman do when she has a farm and a bunch of kids? You advertise for menfolk.
And this is where we're getting into her nomer of the Lonely Hearts Killer. This became a way that she was able to lure men to her farm. And
So
she could write a good personal ad. Like,
oh, she could.
Yeah.
So
I think she
ran an
honestly is
ad.
kind of like the original Catfish, because I've read a lot of her personal ads. Is this one of them?
We do have one of them.
I've read a lot of her personal ads and some of the messages and letters she would send these gentlemen, and they were so sweet and steamy. And you could see how these men would be so taken with her. And then they meet her, and then it's like, oh, Brynhilde.
Oh, Brynhilde. Okay.
Yes. Very big farm woman who does probably never smiled in her life.
She doesn't look like she smiles much.
No, she's a very tough, like, of the earth woman. She's not easily taken with romance and such. But if you read these personal ads, you read these letters, like, she's presenting a very different person on paper to lure these men there.
Well, and the first one who would come would be 30-year-old Olaf Lindboe, who is also a Norwegian immigrant. Now, what's interesting is, he's 30 and Belle's in her like mid 40s at this point. Mm-hmm. But he came out and he started working, and mostly he was there like to work, but neighbors are noticing there's a little something going on between them. Mm-hmm. But see, this is what I find fascinating, because you have this young man, because like he's quite a bit younger than her, and Belle she would have probably been called like a handsome woman at one point, which is what often women then were called if they had a little bit more what were considered at the time like masculine features or masculinity to them, only meaning they were stronger, a stern face. But like,
she's got mommy energy. Like, she's a tall woman, she's a big woman, she owns her own property, so I can see why a younger man who's just getting started, like, hey, there's already a farm established, she seems to have everything taken care of, all I have to do is help out, like, she'll point me in the right direction, this is easy.
Well, and girl could get it. It seemed like whatever she had going on, she could entice these men to be all over her. And so like there was something going on between them, and next thing you know, he's writing to his father saying, I'm getting married soon.
Oh, are you?
Well, and then wouldn't you know it, Olaf decided he'd found summer. He decided he was going to go to St. Louis to see the World's Fair. And then another neighbor, she told that he'd gone to see the new king of Norway get crowned. And then when Olaf's father wrote, being like, why haven't I heard from my son? She said, oh, he went west, I think. So she wasn't keeping track of her stories, but Olaf's gone. Sorry, Olaf. She did another ad. That was the one I think that we had run, the comely widow who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts. Yes. She desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman, equally well provided with view of joining fortunes. No replies by letter considered unless sender is willing to follow answer with personal visit. I love this. Triflers need not apply.
Yeah, and that actually, there's a fictional book based on her, and it's called In the Garden of Spite. And this is a good one, like, I mean, because the thing is with Belle Gunness, we don't know what actually happened. We don't have any personal accounts of what the interactions were. We just have what was documented. And so if you want to speculate, you want to have fun with that, In the Garden of Spite does that for you. It kind of puts you in the place of what would have actually happened. And this book was originally called Triflers Need Not Apply.
Which I love that I like when you can have a kind of a historical fiction book that actually tries to incorporate as much of what we knew and know into it. The next man that we know of in April of 1905 is Henry Gerholt. We do have a picture of Henry. There we go.
Look at that mustache.
Yes. That is an exemplary mustache. Oh, I admire that mustache, Henry. He was ecstatic to be working on a farm, and he would talk about how he felt so welcomed by the kind Mrs. Gunness. And he wrote to his mother, "I am being treated almost the same as one of the family."
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, all of these reports about, again, how kind Belle was, how inviting, how wonderful she could be, and how charming
She
she could
could lay
be.
it on when she wanted to, and I think we see that with a lot of modern serial killers too,
Oh
like
yeah.
how they are able to lure people to them. You have to know how
Mhm.
to manipulate people. You have to know what people want.
Yes. And so, he suddenly quit, wouldn't you know it, in August of 1905.
Interesting.
Never to be heard from again. Belle's
There's a
continuing to
lot of
advertise.
turnaround at this time in her life.
How
By
does
the way, did we
turn?
ever talk about the house that partially burned down? Because that was before the farm, right?
That was
Yeah.
their house back in Indiana, where it burned, but the structure was intact, but it was mostly their belongings that.
Yeah, but what I
Mhm.
wanted to mention about that, which again kind of sets up a lot of Belle's personality, is she had insured it, and there was reports that she seemed very unhappy that they were able to save the house.
I hadn't read about that, but it's entirely possible. They got a pretty decent insurance payout from that, though.
She got it mostly from the belongings they
From the
lost.
belongings, yeah, because the house itself was intact, so they were able
Mm-hmm.
to
They
repair
lost
it.
like a most of a room.
Yes. Uh, so her next dude, George Barry, who comes out. We may or may not have a picture of
No,
George.
we don't have a picture of
Yeah,
George. Our
there
next
was a
picture is
number
of
of men
Jen.
we didn't have pictures for because, again,
Mm-hmm.
immigrants. He comes out to the farm. He had about $1,500 on him for a job and possibly marriage, and then he was never heard from again. Christian Hilkvin sold his farm, left for LaPorte after answering an ad in the paper
And
to.
yeah, a lot of these men too were also Norwegian immigrants, which
It was
I think they also
almost
felt
entirely
safe
immigrants.
with
Yeah.
her because she's also an immigrant. And the immigrants of this time really kind of stuck together
Oh yeah.
and formed communities. I mean, we still see that today with like Little Italy and stuff
Oh yeah.
in like New York. So I think there is something like, okay, I can trust her. You know, we're the same. We both immigrated here from another country.
Emil Tell left his job to marry a wealthy widow. Old Budsberg, I'm obsessed with these names. He sold his farm, told his adult sons he was moving to LaPorte to remarry. After nothing is heard from their father, they wrote to Belle, and she promptly responded she had never seen their father. And this continued. She had new men coming to the farm every week, and she
Yeah.
called them her cousins.
Uh-huh.
And what was funny is that men would be seen coming there. They would never be seen leaving. And according to one of
And
her
their
farm
luggage
hands,
would stay there.
yep, their trunks would be left behind. In fact, there was a great quote. There was about 15 trunks, and one room was packed full of all kinds of men's clothing.
It makes you think of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something where they have the graveyard of cars.
All the belongings.
Why
Well, and
is no one taking their trunks with them?
Mrs. Gunness said that the cousins had left their clothes and she wasn't certain that they'd be back for them. And again, no one is saying why.
Exactly. I do want to welcome Tatum. Thank you for joining the B Movie Coven here on the channel. And yeah, we'll play a little. Thank you. Thank you. I know, right? It's super cute. Yes. So thank you so much for joining and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it.
Yay.
And I didn't see your super chat. Not sure what happened there, but I appreciate the thought.
We have Thomas Lindboe, Olaf Svenherd from Chicago, John Moe. I'm not gonna lie, I have like a list of 20 something names. I'm not going to name all of them because we would be here for a while, but just names of guys who were last heard of either answering an ad that was suspected to be Belle's or heading to LaPorte and never being heard from again.
And that's what's really sad is a lot of these people, it seems like they just weren't missed. Like there was nobody looking for them until eventually she does kill some of the wrong people.
Until
or
she
maybe
could
it's not that they weren't missed. They weren't missed by anybody who had any power to do anything about it.
Well, and I think one of the struggles too, especially when you're an immigrant, if if you didn't have a lot of family already here,
Mm-hmm.
then the family that, but in all likelihood, if I came here from Norway, am I ever going back to Norway potentially?
Yeah.
It's not like you could just hop on an airplane and fly over. So a
So
lot of these people knew in moving to America, they may never see a lot of their family again.
I mean,
And
that's hard even just in modern day. I moved here in the 90s and it was very hard to stay in touch with my family.
Mhm.
So I absolutely understand that. But yeah, so the people who there was a lot of ruckus over them missing, it's because they had immigrated here together and I think bonded them too.
Or you know, a lot of the ones is the men who had sons or brothers in some cases, or fathers, where there was family who was close enough or who had been hearing regularly enough that when they stopped hearing, they wanted to know why.
Yes.
Where
That's bizarre.
if I'm a relative and I'm getting letters once a year from somebody, if the letters suddenly stop, I'm going to be curious, but also that was life in the early 1900s.
It's also just hard. I mean, how do you stay in touch? You just have
How do you
snail
stay in touch?
mail
Yeah.
and it's a lot harder to maintain those relationships, especially across countries.
So by 1906, during the summer months, Belle hired a local guy named William BLUESKY to dig some holes for her. She was real specific about what she needed. She needed holes that were about 6 feet long, about 3 feet wide, and about 4 feet deep. You know, normal holes.
Interesting. I wonder what these holes could be for.
Who knows? Belle's adopted daughter, Jenny, she's getting older. She's about 16 now. And she's very pretty, very popular with some of the local boys.
Yeah, she's getting
Heck,
older.
I was
She's
gonna say,
getting
we've
to
got a
the
picture
age
of
where we
her.
start
Yeah.
thinking about marrying off our kids
Mm-hmm.
back at the time.
And then
And now
she's,
Jenny's not as convenient as she used to be.
well, and she's telling everyone she's going to get sent to school in California.
Yep.
And then she left real suddenly.
Yeah,
Real
so she had
suddenly.
a relationship with a guy in town and they were very,
Mhm.
very close. And I remember reading the plan was he was very sad that she was leaving because he wanted to marry her, but
Mhm.
they were extremely close. He was going to come to see her in the morning before she left to give her a proper goodbye. And
Mhm.
he knew she would not leave without saying goodbye. And yet when he gets there, Belle's like, oh, she's already gone.
Yeah, she left. And letters wouldn't be, they would be unanswered.
Mm-hmm.
So even though Belle's like, no, girl's just in California, no one was able to get a hold of her.
Yeah, so this didn't track with her personality or, just the relationship she had with this person at all. And Jenny it wasn't really Jenny's decision to do this. It was very much Belle's decision. You're going
Jenny
to go to
was
school
told
here.
this is what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's still, like, she's 16, so she is still under Belle's, control. So then in July of 1907, Belle hired a new farmhand, Ray Lamphere.
This is where I think her relationship, this is the one really strange relationship she has with a man, I think.
Well, I mean, they were banging.
Exactly. Like, she is not a fan of men, right?
Well, I don't think it's that she's not a fan of men. I
think,
feel like that, because I don't think that's true. I think it's that she wanted money, and that was the most convenient way to get it.
I guess to rephrase it, I think she was threatened by anybody who might have power over her. And maybe the appeal of Ray is she had total power over him. He worked for her.
Because, see, I don't know that I would agree with that, but it's possible.
Well, what do you think? Because, I mean, you're the expert here, so
for me, I mean, again, she was so financially driven. Mm-hmm. She wanted money. And I think it didn't matter if she's getting money from the children, if she's getting money from the men. They're all devices. I don't think it was as psychologically as complex of, I have a deep, like, simmering hatred of men for what they've done to me and I'm going to kill a bunch of them. I think it really is, I can manipulate them. I can use them as I want to, the same way I can manipulate children, and they're convenient.
So
but
it's
she
more
was
that
such a
they're worth a certain amount of money. So why do
yeah.
you think she had such a long-running sexual relationship with Ray? He can't offer her anything. He doesn't have money.
Nobody can offer her sex. That's why he was still
That's true.
alive.
So basically, I think that makes sense. She's viewing these men by what they can do for her.
Yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
and Ray, she actually, because Ray was at some point brought in on it. And
Yes.
so he was bragging to his friends, not just about like this glorious sex they're having, but also that she was begging him to marry her. And that's a
Right.
really different thing than what she was having with these men who were coming and she was bringing in and killing. She had, I mean, honestly, this is going to sound like a weird thing to say. Her relationship with Ray was the most honest relationship she had with any man.
Honestly, most people.
Yeah. Because he, and that may have been part of the appeal, is if at some point he figured out or she clued him in on what he was doing and he helped her and he was a part of it. There's also this element of like, maybe you see me.
Yeah,
Okay.
somebody who accepts you for who you are.
Yeah. But during this, she's still corresponding with men, and she'd been corresponding with this guy named Andrew Helgelian for like 18 months. So she lies to Andrew about the size and the worth of her farm, and she's hardcore.
This guy was
guy.
such a mistake.
Well, this was the beginning of the end for her.
Yes, she killed the wrong guy.
She killed the wrong guy. Well, and she wrote to him and she said, take all your money out of the bank as soon as possible. And she's laying it on thick. And she's not saying, you know, she's like, come work at the farm, come work for me, but don't tell your family, because that's not suspicious to be like, don't tell your family what you're going to do.
And he's extremely close to his brother.
He's very close to his brother. So he comes to LaPorte in January of 1908. And Belle tells Ray, you have to sleep in the barn because my new friend needs your room. Ray's not stoked about this. And one could argue perhaps he was a bit jealous. So Helgelian and Belle go to the bank and they're redeeming like his certificates of deposit, but the bank, it was too much money for them to have on demand. It was going to take a couple days. So on January 11th, Belle and Andrew, they left the bank with $2,839, which is about $100,000 by today, in cash. He was never seen alive after January 14th. On February 3rd, and this is another, like, again, turning point, Belle fires Ray. And we do not know to this day exactly what the fallout was, but it was bad. And he didn't take anything with him when he left.
Which is interesting because he knows more about her than a lot of people do. So
He
you think
knows
that she'd be afraid that he could blackmail her or something.
Well, and I have some of my own theories on this, but that's going to become an important play given what happens. So
But
she
again,
hired.
I mean, Ray's not a very powerful person, so maybe that's why he was safe to confide in, because he's one of the few men I don't think who can really like speak out against her. Like a lot of these people who are investigating her have money and they have established themselves.
I think the concern would be if he does start speaking out against her, people might dismiss it as, you know, oh, it's Ray, he's bitter, he's this. However,
and they had a sexual relationship.
However, if I'm one of the family members who is suspicious and I catch wind of this guy, I'd listen to him.
Yeah.
And that's the danger. It's not that the general
people
town
who are local also were really suspicious of her. Like at this point, she had kind of a reputation.
She was hitting a point where I think she knew the writing was on the wall. Mm-hmm. She hires a new farmhand, Joseph Maxon, and Ray returns for his things, but Belle runs off.
Mustache, just saying.
These are some really nice mustaches.
Really nice.
Quality. I would use 10 out of 10 on the mustache land. Belle complained to the local sheriff that she was being harassed by her former farmhands. And in March, she had him arrested for trespassing. Also in March, she received a letter from, man, I'm going to say this name wrong, Osel Helgelian.
Yeah. So this is the brother, right?
This is the brother. And despite Belle being like, oh, hey, Andrew, don't tell anybody. I mean, you know, he told his brother. So his brother is like, why have I not heard from Andrew? In early April, Ray is again arrested for trespassing. Belle testified against Ray. And while Belle is testifying, Ray's attorney starts aggressively questioning her about her previous husband's deaths and the life insurance policies, and then said, where's your daughter, Jenny?
Yeah, where is Jenny?
So at this point, she knows that Ray has at least told his attorney what's up.
And that's the thing, like, I know things, forensics and stuff were different then, but couldn't they verify whether or not Jenny arrived at her school? Like, it doesn't seem like that would be that challenging.
But remembering that she was sent to school in California.
Yeah, but can't somebody send a letter to this school and be like, hey, you got a student named Jenny who showed up?
If you can, I mean, the weeks it would take a letter to get there, and if you can prove that the school existed, and I suppose you need someone, it would need to be a, like a police officer or something. It would need to be a somebody who would have to want to do it.
And I also have questions about the brother, because I know he sent numerous like telegrams and letters saying, hey, where's my brother? I want to hear from my brother. And I know he did show up there once or twice. When did that finally happen? Like, what made him go down there, and was it really hard for him to travel there?
I don't know that it was hard for him to travel there. I think he finally got fed up with you know, why hasn't my brother, where is he? She's getting really nervous that Ray is saying something to the wrong person, because she had him arrested for trespassing again, but this time he had an alibi and was found not guilty. So she's grasping at straws.
I also have another question. Why do you think Ray is trespassing? What does he want?
I think initially he's trying to either talk to her or get his things, but then she's lying about him trespassing because she's trying to set him up.
Do you think they're still having a relationship and she's accusing him of trespassing even though she's inviting him there?
I don't know that, because it does get a little dicey where it seems like he was complicit in some of the things, even after they'd had a falling out. But she starts saying really explicitly that she's afraid that he might one day set fire to her home.
Interesting.
And she really specifically, she's like, I am afraid that Ray will set fire. Who's listening? Did y'all hear me?
She's planting the seeds because she's a firebug.
She's a firebug, and she's also setting something up.
So at this point, let's see. She set fire to the candy store, right?
Set fire to candy store.
Tried to set fire to one of her homes. Was there another fire?
There's about to be.
Okay.
Well, and so sometime around April 20th, Myrtle Sorensen. Myrtle was one of the children with Mad. That was one of her OG children. Whispered to his schoolmate, allegedly, my mama killed my papa. She hit him with a meat cleaver and he died. Don't tell a soul. Now, I don't know that I believe this actually happened, but allegedly this is something that was said after the fact. So Belle visited a guy named M.E. Lellleiter on April 27th. He was an attorney. And she specifically said to him, I am afraid that Ray is going to murder me. Like, just period. And she gave this whole sob story about how he had made advances on her delicate person and she didn't reciprocate. And she specifically said to this attorney, I'm afraid he is going to kill me and burn the house. Again, real specific. So she writes this will, leaves everything to her children, goes to the store, buys some toys, buys some candy, goes and buys a bunch of groceries, and 2 gallons of kerosene.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
At about 4 a.m. on April 28th of 1908, the new farmhand, Joe Maxon, awoke smelling smoke in the house. He's on the 2nd floor of the Gunness home. He opens the hall. He sees a sheet of flames. He calls out for Belle and the children. No one responds. He slams the door. He's in his underwear. He jumps out the 2nd-story window.
Oh, wow.
Barely survives, but he does, because the fire is closing in. He races to town to get help. Nothing to be done. The fire has been burning too quickly, and it burned too much. You can see the shell of the house here. And in the end, almost nothing remained of the house. And as the smoldering dies down, the menfolk are looking through the remains. They're like, maybe we can find some bodies. We're trying to find Belle. We're trying to find these children. And before long, they found 4 bodies, 1 adult and 3 children. So they're thinking, okay,
we're getting to the part that really keeps me up at night with this.
It's Belle and her 3 children, Myrtle, who is 11 at the time, Lucy, 9, and Philip, who is 5. The bodies, and this was kind of strange, the bodies were not found on the beds. They were found on the 2nd floor. Where
They're all together.
The bodies weren't found on the 2nd floor. They were found with the piano on top of them from the 1st floor.
So like they were hiding maybe from things crashing down from above or something.
There was a couple different theories about what happens. What was really weird, though, is that Mrs. Gunness appeared to be missing her head.
This is the part that drives me crazy. I think about this all the time. Where's the freaking head? But there's a lot more we need to cover before we get to that.
Well, and at first, because, these are burned out bodies. There was other body parts missing. So they're like, well, maybe.
Yeah. And we haven't quite gotten to the big reveal yet. So at the time, it's not a big deal. It's like, okay, you know what? We're going to search around the house. But it is kind of strange. If you're huddling with your children because there is a fire in your house, how does your head just fall off? It's like Dumb and Dumber. Our pets' heads are falling off. Our mom's heads are falling off. You would think, okay, because the children also had a lot of damage to them from obviously like debris and stuff falling from the ceiling. But even if that were to happen and decapitate Belle, her head would be nearby.
Her head would be nearby. Well, and this is when the local physicians are like, no. There's no amount of heat that could have cremated that skull.
Yeah.
And what they're starting to piece together is that they believed everyone in the house had been killed and placed into the basement before the fire started. So now we are officially dealing with murder.
Yes, and it's about to get really messed up.
It's gonna get
guys, even more so. You're here at the right time because this is about to get crazy. You think what they found at John Wayne Gacy's basement is crawl space is bad? Oh, dude.
So people are pointing at Ray Lamphere being like, oh, well, he did it.
She set those seeds. She said he was going to set fire to the house. Like she knew what she was doing. She already had a plan. She was setting him up as a patsy, which also makes you wonder because she's so manipulative. How far back did that con go?
I think.
Did she ever have real relationship with him, or was she setting him up to take the
I
bait?
absolutely think their relationship was real. Absolutely. I think, honestly, this plan didn't really start. I mean, I'm not saying she probably had all kinds of little out plans, but I think this specific plan didn't really come to fruition until that one lawyer inquest where he started questioning her and she knew Ray had at least told the lawyer. I think that's where she was like, oh crap, okay, we got to execute a new plan. I believe their relationship was very real. I wish if I had to guess what the falling out was probably about.
The fact that she had different guys there every week?
Yeah, I think he was getting jealous because I wouldn't be shocked to learn that even as she's pulling guys in and she has Ray, that she's probably also having sexual relationships with some of these guys.
Probably. And then also the fact that he thought they were going to get married. And so he's probably kind of like, the mistress in the situation. Like, when are you going to leave your wife? Like, when are we going to get married, so to speak?
And it's like, again, their relationship is really fascinating and what he was willing to do for her.
I wonder if their relationship sheds any light on maybe her relationship with Jenny. Not that's a very different relationship, but that was her child. But Jenny was a confidant. Jenny obviously knew what had happened to her fathers. Jenny was complicit to a degree in that she was supposed to recite these stories. And
I
then
don't
when
think she
Jenny's
knew, though.
gone, now she's got Ray, who is the person who knows what's really happening. Like she
I don't
seems to
think
have.
Jenny was ever a confidant. I
Yeah.
think no, because I mean Jenny didn't see anything.
So
I
you think
think
she just believed her.
yeah, it's her mom. I think when she says, "Hey, honey," because she was upstairs when Peter was hit with the meat grinder.
But what about
She didn't see
Myrtle,
anything.
who potentially might have told a classmate that her mom
Honestly,
killed?
I don't know that ever actually
Yeah.
happened.
So
I
do
think
you think the children were in the dark about who she really was, or do you think they knew?
I think the children. I don't think they had a clue. I think they're young enough. I mean, Jenny was getting old enough. I'm sure she could have been savvy to some things,
Mm-hmm.
but like the 11-year-old, the 9-year-old, and the 5-year-old, I think there was probably stuff that they saw, but I don't think they had a frame of reference for what it was. Because what's a 5-year-old going to know about a guy being there one week and not the next, or a 9-year-old? I mean, like if mom says this is your cousin and now he went home, they'd be like, oh, okay, because kids are delightful, but they'll believe what adults.
So
Do you know some of the stuff I've said to some of my drama students that the teenagers even believe? I convinced them that Thomas Jefferson was a lie because it was fun for me one day. They believed me. Kids are stupid. I love them so much, but they'll believe anything an adult tells them.
so let's talk about those holes. Let's come back to those holes that were dug.
Okay, so what we're getting to is that right now the narrative is that Mrs. Gunness was trying to protect her children and was brutally killed by somebody, and this poor woman and these poor children. This is the narrative we are initially dealing with. This is what's in the papers. I found a bunch of articles about it. I quote them, but we don't got time for that. So it's very much, it was Ray. And they go to arrest him. And the first words out of his mouth, did those 3 children and the woman get out of the building? Like, bro, if you're trying to not be suspicious, that's not what you should be doing. And he says he saw the smoke.
And it's interesting that he says the woman and not Belle.
Yeah. He also says he has an alibi. He was with a woman. They were doing taxes. And the woman backs up these claims that like, yeah, I had a gentleman call her. We were doing our taxes. Further examination of the body led the doctors to be like, the head hadn't been cut off, had been burned. So now there's a whole bunch of just like, what's going on? No one's really sure. Nellie, Belle's sister, takes the train out after she hears. And then Jenny's biological sister, who had stayed in contact with Jenny, she'd been worrying because she hadn't heard anything from her sister at this point in years. So she's like, oh no, what if Jenny was visiting home and was in the fire? I should go check. So she heads to LaPorte. And then Andrew's brother, has now come back to LaPorte because he's like, hey, something's going down. So they start sifting through the ruins of the basement. Joe Maxon, the other farmhand, he's helping him out. And they're asking Joe about places that a body could have been disposed of. So that's suspicious. And Joe mentions the holes, to your point, the holes. And he says, well, they've been dug for rubbish by the fences back in March. Rubbish holes that you can fit bodies into. So they're like, okay, we should go dig up these holes. Are we going to be shocked about what we find in these holes?
No, but maybe the way that we're finding them.
Well, it's the smell that got them first. The smell of a dead body. I'm really hoping most people don't know what a dead body smells like. It's not great. It is not a good smell. And before long, their shovels strike a man's severed arm. And there actually is, I think that's one of the pictures. So they're like, well, that's a dead body. We should call the sheriff. So they do. and they keep digging, and the full body is unearthed.
With a lot of these bodies, and this is why I think the numbers I heard was anywhere between 14 and 40. The reason why we don't have an exact number is these are pieces of bodies. So it's like an arm here, a torso here, and they don't all match. So they're laying out bodies and trying to figure out like what goes with what, but they really don't have any way of knowing because there's no DNA like testing.
Well, this first one we knew. This first one we knew almost immediately because his brother was there.
That's Andrew.
Andrew. So Ossel Helgelian looked and said, he'd later say this, I recognized it by the form of the face, across the eye, the forehead, across the cheeks. When you've been with your brother every day for 15 years, you know him. Mm-hmm. So he immediately knew that was his brother.
He was able to ID him.
He ID'd him.
We
so
had
the very
a lot
first
of bodies that were not ID'd.
An autopsy showed that he had been poisoned with arsenic and then bludgeoned. So that's one. We got one body and we know who that body is. Then we find more bodies.
The other thing, like the amount of parts didn't all equal up to whole bodies. And wasn't there a theory that she was feeding parts of them to the pigs?
Oh yeah. Yep. That's we're almost there.
Oh, sorry.
Nope,
I get excited.
I know. Well, that's the thing is that they were able to identify certain bodies.
Yes.
And part of it was because of things found on the bodies or in well, you'll see in a second. But yes, they're finding these pieces and they're finding that they were killed in a combination of poison, blows to the head with cleavers or hatchets, and then dismembered so they were in more manageable portions. Which, like, yeah, but it means IDing these bodies.
Based on what we're seeing with the state of the bodies, we're seeing arson. We're seeing. What do you think happened? So you said she might have been having sex with these guys. Like, I know only one report of one guy who did get away. So he got like this nice letter, like one of the ones who got wooed. He went down there and he said in his report there were shoes outside of his door. Someone was constantly walking back and forth. He was really creeped the fuck out. And the next day he left. So I think there was also a lot of speculation that she was killing them in their sleep, that she would go there and like bludgeon them, or maybe she had poisoned them,
or she'd feed them. And so she'd put it in their food or put it in tea or something, and you poison them first and then you hit them to make sure they're actually dead. And then you take, because she was good at dismembering pigs, so what's a human, what's a pig, it's the same thing. So she would dismember them. And this is notable partially because we talked about this a little bit with the Lizzie Borden of it all. Most female serial killers, they do use poison. That's one of their main methods, but the dismemberment is less common.
But
she was not someone who struggled.
In the chat, she can't possibly have been doing this alone, right? I mean, these are full-grown men.
She could lift a 200-pound pig.
So you think she was doing this all by herself? You don't think Ray was helping her?
Oh, I think Ray was helping her, but Ray wasn't always around. I think she was doing this by herself for quite a long time.
And she had been slaughtering the pigs by herself for a long time, right? So
you dismember a body to make
the kids were helping or anything.
No. Because that's the thing. Okay, kids go to bed. You poison a guy, hit him over the head once to make sure he's dead. You drag him outside, drag him to the barn. Like, dragging a dead body, yeah, that's hard, but she was a strong
big woman.
So you drag this body out, you dismember him in the barn, and then you take it piece by piece to dispose of a body.
And I guess it's not like there was people checking all the time. She'd have a couple of days maybe. People aren't going to go into the barn to take care of this stuff.
And again, before she had a farmhand, it was her and the kids. And like once Ray came along, yes, I absolutely think that Ray was helping her. But I think there was a lot of times where, and coming back to that point about, yes, they do think she was feeding pieces of bodies to the pigs.
And how frequently was she doing this? Was this like once a month?
Well, that's the big question mark, because record keeping is so sketchy. And that's why the range of deaths is 14 to in the 40s. And some people think it could be even higher, because there could have been guys coming out weekly. There could have been guys coming out monthly. we don't know.
I know she
I
had
think
a reputation for having a revolving door. I remember one person was quoted in one of the articles I read, like it was more like she was kind of slut shaming her, but like how she had a different guy there every week.
and I personally lean a little bit more towards, I could see her having someone there like once a month to bi-monthly, because like she was brazen, but even she had to understand that at some point it was going to blow up, which is also where I think she had contingency plans, because she, much like she left Chicago, she knew at some point questions were going to get to be too much.
And then asking, I also want to know, like, what was she getting from a lot of these guys? Because a lot of these guys were
Money.
going to her because they wanted the farm. But again, the report from the guy who talked about the shoes and the people outside, he said he was told it was like this great farm, and he got there and it was falling apart. She was not caring for the farm very well. There was not a lot there. So she didn't need that much help with the farm because she wasn't taking care of the farm. And he said it smelled bad, it looked bad, it was really run down. So is she just taking what they brought with them? Because a lot of them said that they were getting checks and stuff, right? Like their whole life savings, put it into a check, and so she would take that. So how long do you think she needed the guys there, either to make it look less suspicious or maybe to get help on the farm?
Oh, I don't think the help on the farm was even in her. I think it was
she didn't give a crap about the farm.
No, with Andrew,
digging holes.
But that was a farmhand. That wasn't one of the guys. She would hire. See, that's the thing. She hired farmhands from local to do this stuff.
So she doesn't need them for that. She needs them for their money.
Ray was a local. Ray was a local. He was not one of her men answering an ads. He was a local she hired initially just to work the farm.
So locals are digging the holes. Locals are helping her. She needs help with the farm. She probably also is having the kids help with the farm. What work there is to do. She's not taking good care of it. She puts these ads in the paper, and she's putting them in like big cities and stuff too. So they're traveling a bit.
That's where you have more immigrants.
She's finding guys who have the potential to provide some kind of finances. She's like, okay, let's go to the bank. Let's get a check. Let's do this. She gets the check, and then that guy's never seen again, but his luggage is still there.
Yes.
And now we're finding parts of them.
We're finding parts of them. And she was very specific in the letters about bringing the money out. And I mean, like we saw it with Andrew. He was around for a couple days, mostly because the bank couldn't get that much funding that quickly. So they had to wait. So he was alive long enough for the initial going in for him to hand over the check. And then a few days later for them to actually get the funds. And then after the 14th, no one saw him. So he was alive exactly long enough for her to get his money. And then he was gone. So there, bodies. They did find one body then that was a female, and they knew because there was a uterus. And that body had been disassembled. And then they found another female body who would be identified as Jenny. So they were able to identify Jenny's body.
So Jenny never went to California.
Jenny never went to California.
So and likely that night, she probably did the same thing. She probably made her dinner, sent her to bed, bludgeoned her, and that's why she never said goodbye to her guy.
Yeah, she was probably poisoned, and that was that.
Why do you think she got rid of Jenny?
I think Jenny was very pretty. I think Jenny was old enough to potentially be getting or asking things she shouldn't. I think there was an element of Jenny, to your point, had a boyfriend. And I think Jenny wanted to run off with him. And the danger of that is, what's Jenny going to say?
So Jenny might have known too much.
By the time she was 16, I'm sure, like, she probably had some of her own suspicions. But I also think, I mean, you don't want to think that about your parent.
Well, there's also her mom's terrible reputation, too. So she's got to be hearing stuff from people in town. People asking her questions that she doesn't know how to answer.
It's hard, too, because, I mean, again, we found this with Lizzie Borden. I think hindsight's 20/20, and it's really, really easy when you look at a case after everything's come out for people to then say, well, I always knew she was bad. I always had my suspicions. And then the legend grows in a different way. We don't actually know how much people were suspicious of her.
Well, and by reputation, I don't even mean that. I don't think a lot of people suspected she was killing anybody because, again, like
Oh
you
no, I
said,
don't think anyone thought she
woman.
was killing.
Her reputation was largely that she was a hoe bag.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
I
just
think people
having
were like,
unmarried men at your house and having a different man every week looks really bad. You know, it's not like she stopped marrying the guys. Like, they just were cousins or they were travelers or, you know,
but as
it
a
looks
widow,
bad.
she also had a little bit more, I don't want to say grace, but like people, an older widow, she's not going to get pregnant. So people are looking at it more as a like nudge, nudge, wink, wink gossip and less like, don't come to church, you hoe bag. Do you know what I mean?
The other question, you know, because her farm looks like crap. Like what Adam's saying, what's she blowing the money on?
Well, you're assuming she was spending it.
So you think she's hoarding it?
Let's press pause on that.
Okay,
we'll
come back. We'll come back.
Yes. Because that ties into something that I'm like,
Yeah. So
there's so many
back
pieces.
To digging up these bodies. We found Jenny. We're finding lots of pieces of bodies.
Yes, and they set up a makeshift morgue.
Also, this was a big event. There was actually, from what I was able to find, there was postcards and stuff. Like, people from the town would come to help, like, find body parts. Like, kind of like, it made me think of, like, when you hear about people coming to find fossils. Like, just townsfolk would come. There was a postcard I remember finding where it showed just how many people were on this farm. Like, just and watching the spectacle of it all.
The media circus was insane. And there's pictures of that. You can see pictures of all the people coming. I think there's I was going to say, I think I have some in here too. So they're finding all these bodies. They found another spot where they unearthed 4 more bodies. The smell is unbearable. There's all these corpses being unearthed. And you can see in the skulls gashes or places where they'd been hit. Our body count at this point is up to 9. Press is printing these crazy stories left and right. Lots of cool headlines like Death Harvest of Belle Gunness was one of my favorites. I want a horror film there's probably a horror film called Death Harvest.
There's actually not a lot. I did look, when I was looking for books and movies and stuff, there is a movie called The Farm that's really, really small and hasn't come out yet. But there really are not a lot of movies or anything about Belle Gunness.
She is, one and well, again, we haven't even gotten to me what's the most bonkers part and about why this would make such a good movie.
This honestly would make a terrifying film. There's so much room to speculate, like we were saying, just because we don't know we have only very few small accounts of what her interactions with these men were, like what she was doing when they were in the house.
Well, so this is where it goes from this is horrifying to a true WTF moment, which is, what if this body we have found in the house, this headless body we have found in the house.
This is the part that keeps me up.
What if this body was not Belle?
Exactly. And there's a lot of evidence that says it's not Belle.
There was some specific things.
I don't think it's Belle.
It hadn't, right now it's just speculation. Theories are being thrown around because everybody, like press then was going nuts. And the articles, this was, because this was also around the time H.H. Holmes was a couple years prior. People are obsessed with this kind of thing. They're eating it up. But it also meant what was being reported in papers was not necessarily truth. So the theories are ranging from, because the press are just trying to figure out, because like serial killers still aren't something anyone is like. So they're like, okay, maybe she was doing baby farmings. That was a thing, taking infants in for money and then disposing of them. Maybe it was there's I don't know, when you find just bodies of people, there's only so many theories about what could be happening.
Yeah.
The police were like, no, we think she was luring men, mostly Norwegian and immigrant men, to her home, offering them work or marriage, and then she'd poison them, dismember them, and bury them. Like, this seems very straightforward. People, though, are not just flocking to town to watch. People are flocking to town to look for their missing relatives.
Yes.
Because they're like, our relatives went missing. Body count's up to 12. And they're finding, again, pieces of bodies that they can't. There was an account
really
that described
scary.
it.
If you found out that one of your relatives, you know, had gone there, and like this is all of a sudden a very scary, alarming thing. Like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
just like now, how people have so many stories about maybe encounters with serial killers. There's probably a lot of people who are like, hey, maybe I should think twice about that thing that I thought was not a big deal when so and so said they were going to go meet a lady at a farm. Maybe they're there.
Maybe they're there.
Yeah.
Well, and there was
a lot of evidence too about this body. Can you tell us some of the evidence about the body that made them think it's not Belle?
Yes. Sorry, let me jump ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry if I'm like
no. So yeah, so the body that they think wasn't Belle, there was the biggest thing was the fact that even allowing for the missing head, she was about 5'2" and weighed somewhere between 75 to 130 pounds, depending on which report you read. It was all over the place. That's a big range. But even being generous, Belle was at a minimum 5'7", anywhere from 5'7" to 6 feet, and somewhere in the 220 pound range, give or take 10 pounds. So that's a huge discrepancy. Is physically this woman just did not match. There were also sightings popping up.
Yes, I read about this where people thought they saw Belle everywhere, kind of like the whole Elvis thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the Elvis of it all.
And there's a lot of theories too, but
there are.
We can get into that. I wanted to know about the evidence, and also if it's not Belle, who is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this would trying to chronologically jump through because some of the stuff happened when the trial started.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the you steer. I'm just gonna follow you here. We'll get to it, guys.
I'm really trying to keep chronological because the case is so crazy.
No, I understand.
When you start to hop around too much is when it gets even.
All right. Sorry for hopping around.
No.
Like, these are good. It's
good questions. I'm like, I don't want to forget a detail that ends up being important later.
Right. Back to the
so one thing that was important, that I didn't mention, they hired a miner to sift through, and they were specifically looking for Belle's gold tooth. Yeah. Well, those were the rings that they found. Yeah, they found a bunch of rings. So they were specifically looking. She had a gold tooth. Because the idea was that the fire would not have been hot enough to melt. And they were hoping from that they could maybe lay to rest whether or not it was her body. Because if you found the gold tooth, okay. They also found, this miner found 8 men's watches, and among other like rings and all kinds of things. So they found those 2 bridges, and the local dentist identified them because the upper ones she'd gotten done in Chicago, but the lower teeth he had made. Okay. And he looked at it and he was like, yep, those are the teeth I made. But
he says we're kids better at searching for teeth. Why hire a miner?
Hey. What people were questioning was, did she pull them out? Did she? Because here's the thing: you can see, like, there's a molar.
Just pop out like veneers today. Like, how did these come out?
It was attached to one of her actual teeth.
Okay.
So if she left them, which she very well could have, but it meant pulling out one of her own teeth.
It would have been painful.
It would have been painful, but you know, you're trying to fake your own death. Even though a lot of people doubted it, she was declared dead. And despite having an alibi, there were eyewitnesses that said they saw Ray Lamphere leaving the scene. So he is charged with her murder, the children's murders, Andrew Helgellian's murder, and arson.
Wow.
So he is the one everyone's looking at now as being responsible.
I mean, Lamp is in his name.
Right?
It tracks.
It tracks. The frustrating thing about his case is the trial began in November of 1908. There's a lot of contradictory information because the official transcripts seem to be lost, which means verifying some of what happens were challenging. However, there were articles at the time that were quoting the attorneys allegedly verbatim. So the prosecution, they opened up a timeline with when they said, you know, he says he has an alibi. This is how we think it all could have worked. So they laid out this whole thing about how, no. It was totally possible he was doing some taxes with this lady here. And then he like snuck out and did a fire thing. And he even admitted that he was on the spot, like nearby, because he saw the smoke. And so they were like, okay, so if you saw smoke, why didn't you wake people up when you saw the house burning? And his response was, I didn't think that was any of my business.
So there was, if I remember correctly, there was a sort of confession. He did confess to being there, didn't he?
He did, and that was part of he confessed to being nearby and seeing it. And you're like, bro, you're not.
Why did he say he was there?
We're about to get there.
Sorry.
So there was evidence that the children may have been poisoned before the fire.
Okay.
And that whoever that adult was poisoned before the fire. Philip had a hole in his forehead, which further suggested
How old
he
was
had
Philip?
been. Philip was the youngest. He was 5. So the defense is actually the one. Ray Lamphere's defense attorney is the one that's really pushing this narrative that the body they found was not Belle's, that she is alive, and so he can't be found guilty of a person who isn't dead. And the attorney had a local jeweler testify that the gold that was found in the bridge work, that the heat of the fire should have melted it, and that they were trying to like recreate it to see if they could prove one way or another. And they attached a piece of bridge work to human jawbone. The teeth disintegrated, the porcelain teeth warped, and like the gold tooth changed a little. So they're basically just trying to poke as many holes as they can. So Joe Maxson, another man, testified that they also had seen the miner who were sifting through the remains. They were like, no. We saw him plant the bridge work.
Interesting.
Which is another thing that's just wild to me. So then did Belle ask him to? Did Ray Lamphere ask him to? If this is actually true, who asked him to plant the bridge work?
And it's definitely her bridge work, right?
It was because the dentist was like, no, that's her bridge work. Unless the dentist is also lying. Who knows? So his attorney is also questioning the doctors about some unusual things about the bodies, including the fact that there was a lot of evidence to suggest that that there had been poison. And so then they question a guy named John Anderson who lives down the road from the Gunness farm. He comes to the stand, and this becomes really important. He asks, did you see Mrs. Gunness shortly before the fire? And Anderson said, yes, I did. On the Saturday evening before the fire, she was driving by in a buggy, and she stopped to ask how the Flowers were getting along. Warden, that's his attorney, was anyone with her? Anderson, there was a strange woman with her. Warden, describe her, please, Mr. Anderson. Anderson, she was a large woman, not quite as large as Mrs. Gunness. Warden, did you see her again? Anderson, never. After the fire, I told the sheriff about her. So you have a woman a bit smaller than Belle who was never seen again. So on November of 1908, Lamphere is convicted of arson in connection with the fire, but he's found not guilty of the murders. He received a 2 to 21-year sentence, but he died a year later.
How did he die?
Tuberculosis. He wrote a letter to his mother where he very emphatically said he was innocent. But a few weeks after his death, January 14th of 1912, the Reverend E.A. Shell comes forward with a confession that Lamphere was said to have made just before he died. It was a verbal confession that Shell wrote down. And according to the Reverend, he told him Belle was still alive. He had never committed a murder himself, but he'd helped her dispose of bodies. He said she would treat the men who arrived to see her well, make them comfortable, drug or poison them. While incapacitated, she'd hit them on the head with a cleaver or something else. She'd take the bodies to the basement, take them apart like they were farm animals, and then would bury them. But sometimes she wasn't feeling up to it, so she chopped them up and fed them to her pigs. And according to this confession, the headless body that was found was a woman from Chicago whom Belle had lured to her home under the guise of being a housekeeper. She chloroformed the children, smothered them, moved them to the basement with the now headless corpse of the woman, put them in the clothes, took out her own bridge work, set fire to the house, and pieced out. He also said there was another accomplice, but would not give another word on it. So this is wild.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he is also now dead. So no one can question him further about this confession. The number that's most often looked at, I mean, I know it says 14 to 42. 42 is the number that most people settle on based on
one of the podcasts I listened to about this, aside from yours, which, by the way, there are links in the description below if you want the whole in-depth investigation by Kim on Ghoulish Tendencies. But one of them said that they thought it might be around 23.
Yeah, it's when you count up the number of all the people she had corresponded with, it's a high number. I think it's relevant to she had those holes dug, but she was luring men to the farm before that. So either she was feeding a lot more to her pigs than she was letting on, or there was more bodies elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But I think the pigs is legit.
Yeah.
Because that's going to get rid of some bodies.
And just the way the place smells and everything. I mean.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so she had taken out almost all of her life savings before the fire. All the life savings we knew about. The amount of money that she potentially could have gotten from victims could be in the millions of dollars by today's standards.
She had enough money if she wanted to disappear.
Oh, to absolutely disappear. So there was, again, there's lots of sightings. There was a woman pulled off a train in May of 1908, shortly after the house burned down. She was detained until they could prove she wasn't Belle Gunness. Through the years, there was a whole lot of sightings. But one of the ones,
some really bizarre ones. Some people thought they saw that she was like running a cartel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like the whole Elvis thing. Like, it seems like there was so many sightings across multiple states, and obviously a lot of them were probably bogus. But then, where did she go?
There was a woman in 1931 by the name of Esther Carlson who was arrested for murdering a man who was in her care to take his money. She died in prison before the trial could begin, but there was people who lived in LaPorte and who then would later look at her body after she died and said that that was Belle Gunness. She would have been about 72 at the time, so it did match up. There was, in late 2007, a team of forensic anthropologists and grad students from the University of Indianapolis, they got permission to dig up the supposed remains of Belle Gunness, the headless body. Yeah, that's them there. Mm-hmm. They were trying to confirm if it was her using DNA from an envelope and a letter she'd sent. Unfortunately, the DNA sample was too far degraded. So they weren't able to determine either way. There is a memorial gravestone that was made in honor of all of her victims. What's funny, so we talked about the farm. There's a musical called Belle Gunness the Murder Musical, which I desperately want to experience. But all in all, save for some books that have been written, a few nonfiction, and then at least the one fiction, there is virtually no other media about her.
Which is insane because she just killed so many people. I wonder if it's just because we have so much on Lizzie Borden, which is around the same time. We have a lot on H.H. Holmes. Why do you think Belle Gunness has kind of been, to a degree, forgotten about?
Both of them, remembering that both Lizzie Borden and H.H. Holmes had trials.
Uh-huh.
And that makes a huge difference, because part of what drew so much attention was the trials. H.H. Holmes' trial was insane. I mean, Lizzie Borden's trial, we talked about that, how utterly off the wall, bonkers it was. And I think that this case was big at the time. I think the fact that the victims were a lot of immigrant men probably impacted it. And honestly, I mean, the Lizzie Borden case was notable because of the sensation of someone taking an axe and potentially hacking their father and mother to death. That angle was interesting, and the debate about whether or not it was a woman and the mystery of it all. But female serial killers have been largely ignored, which makes it sound like, oh no, poor female serial killers. But
plus with Lizzie, like, there's a lot of people who believe she was innocent, so a lot of people had opinions on this, right?
Yes. And there was the mystery of what happened to Belle Gunness, but again, it was something that was very much of the time. But I think when you look at some of these early serial killers, because a lot of earlier serial killers people don't know about now. Ones that were huge cases at the time, like the Cleveland Torso murders was one that at the time period was humongous. Most people have never heard of today.
No, haven't.
A lot like the Man from the Train, some of these other axe deaths.
I feel like it's like H.H. Holmes and Lizzie Borden around that time are the ones that are kind of household names.
Jack the Ripper was a household name because he was the first. He wasn't the first, but he was the first.
Yeah, like in America.
Yes. But you had
in America, even in America, people knew about Jack the Ripper.
He was one of the first times. The case was so sensationalized, partially because of the papers at the time, that it became it entered the pop culture. H.H. Holmes, the connection to the World's Fair, and the sensationalization around his murder house, which was mostly false, and then Lizzie Borden. But until you start getting into your later serial killers, your Bundys and your Gacy's and some of those, a lot of the cases that happened in between, Ed Gein, I guess, is maybe one of the others, but his was, again, it was so weird.
But I'd say arguably Belle's farm is just as disturbing as a lot of the stuff they found at Ed Gein's place.
Absolutely. And again, more so because with Ed Gein, like, I hate to be like, he didn't actually kill that many people. He mostly just dug up graves.
He dug up a lot. But with her,
which isn't great,
these are people that would have been alive if it wasn't for her.
Yeah. But it's female serial killers are treated differently. But that being said, that whole time period, killers were treated differently because our understanding of what a serial killer was really different. And so
what changed that, you think? Do you think it was like the amount of them that became sensationalized in the 80s?
I think the very first televised trial was Ted Bundy's. And I think as media became like television was huge. So we had a different sort of access to the narrative around serial killers because we could see them now. We could see their pictures. We could see interviews with them and not just read about it in the paper. I think that had a lot to do with it. And yeah, you had a whole, and I mean, I come back to Bundy a lot only because he really was another cultural phenomenon, partially because of who his victims were, which was nice white women, young co-eds.
I think who the victims are makes a big difference in how popular the thing is. I mean, she's killing immigrants that nobody cares about. It's a lot different than pretty young white co-eds. So yeah, that makes sense.
But then, as we get into the 80s, that's also when you first started having these conversations in America. The serial killers as a term had existed before that, but it was really the early ages of like forensic psychology and some of that stuff as we now know it started in the late 70s and early 80s, and that was where there was a lot more conversations with how is this happening, why is this happening, and all of these interviews. They were I mean, Mindhunter, it's when they started interviewing a bunch of these serial killers and killers they actually had in custody to try to figure out what is this, and that there was actually a methodology. There was actually a these are people who are different, who are not just, this isn't just a one-off crime of passion. This is a different situation and a different breed of people
who are making it a lifestyle.
Yeah. And so, but I think given what true crime is now, I still remain absolutely mystified. People don't talk about Belle Gunness more because she's so bonkers. The whole thing is just tailor-made to be.
We have so many Bundy movies. I would love to see a movie where they try to.
I mean, Ryan Murphy, stay away from her. I don't want Ryan Murphy to do it.
Not that one. But did we ever find anything about where's the head?
No. I mean, it's hard.
Okay. Let's just speculate here because we have no idea. So you're Belle Gunness. You have all this money. You can disappear. You can disappear. Taken out your bridge work. Your mouth's all bloody and stuff. You've just killed your children and a lady who came there, and you've cut off her head. You've got a freaking head that you can't leave there because
can't leave it there.
So did she just take a carpet bag with a head in it and a lot of money? And goes to like an inn somewhere?
I mean, the thing is that like she could have.
How could she have gotten rid of this head? Did she just travel somewhere and then?
Yeah, I mean, like she could have
just disappear.
Well, again, no, it's not like it's early 1900s. Head out west. No one's gonna know to look for you.
And she wasn't like super like nationwide notorious, right?
Well, she was in terms of newspaper articles, but like,
did they know what she looked like though?
If they ran a picture of her, even then, it's not like today where you think something's suspicious and you can like look somebody's picture up online.
Yeah.
You see a picture and a woman wearing a large hat walks by and you're like, oh, well, that's a woman with dark. I mean, this is why you had so many sightings too, is that I saw this picture in the paper 3 weeks ago. Did it look like that woman there? They're both women. They have dark hair, sure. Why not?
And the other thing too is I hear a lot of stories about when people try to start over again. It's really hard because it's in their nature. So likely they commit another crime. So do you think she continued this on somewhere and just never got caught? Or did she maybe die not too long after?
I think if it was our friend Esther Carlson, then yeah, she kept doing it because that was why she was in jail.
That would make sense, yeah.
I think if she continued doing, because and this is where you get.
Is there any evidence? Has anyone looked into Esther Carlson's body, like her DNA, or would that even help?
I think the issue they're currently living with is that they don't have a reliable DNA sample of Belle.
Okay.
What they tried to use against the body that was buried was one from a letter, and it was too degraded. So they don't have access to currently anything else that they know of that has Belle's DNA on it. Now, my question has been, if she has any living descendants via her siblings.
Yes, because Nellie, right? Nellie had all those kids.
Nellie had all those kids, and she had a bunch of siblings in Norway still. So if anyone traced that, the problem is well, they'd have to give their consent to have their DNA tested and all that, and then tested against people. But you also run into, this is you can't even really call it a cold case. Like it's a buried under the Antarctic ice case. It's curiosity. It's a question that people would like answered but you need someone to like donate a huge chunk of money.
Yeah, there's no real reason to investigate it now. She's not a threat or anything.
She's not a
But it does
threat.
make you wonder, like, if you looked at Esther's DNA and maybe if we have the body that was found.
Well, but having Esther's DNA in the body that was found wouldn't help us if neither one of them is related to the other.
I guess that's true.
So
this is upsetting me.
No, I know I had this one of the
But okay,
times
if we get Belle's family and compare it to
Right.
those two bodies.
Right. But so you have to track down Belle's family. And then you have to get them to consent to the DNA. So you have to have somebody who is willing to put that money out there to do all of those things.
See, here's the thing. I think, because we've got this book, Hell's
Sure.
Princess is a nonfiction book about Belle Gunness.
book,
We have
yeah.
a fictional book. But if there was an actual interest in Belle,
Sure.
like there's an ongoing interest in Jack the Ripper, it continues to fascinate people. There's fictional books and movies about Jack the Ripper all the time. If there was an actual interest in her, they could probably, if there's a decent movie about it or something,
Sure.
they could probably find somebody who'd want to look into it. I mean, like, we still have people looking into, like, the Zodiac Killer. Like I said, we're still talking about Jack the Ripper and trying to find out about his victims.
But both of those are unsolved.
Exactly. And because this is solved to a degree.
It's solved enough that I think, because the DNA test that they did do was through a university. Okay. A university was doing it. I think given the resources and given a lot of the unsolved cases that we have, I think it comes down to, even though this is personally really dissatisfying because I am absolutely with you, I want these freaking answers.
Yeah.
I think the problem starts to become, we have a finite amount of resources and we should be putting them towards the unsolved cases that actually
affect living people today.
Or some of these, like some of these cold cases where they've been identifying victims from 70 years ago. Mm-hmm. And how remarkable that is to finally give a descendant of somebody like, hey, your great grandfather.
Though, I mean, not all of her victims were identified.
No, but at this point, I mean, I don't even know where they ended up burying a lot of the ones they couldn't identify. So I don't know that's even it comes back down to, you have to have the DNA. Yeah. So if somebody donates or, does an ancestry or whatever, and it goes into the system and someone else is specifically looking, because you have the forensic genealogist or whatever, whose whole job it is to do stuff like this. But there's so many things that have to line up for it to happen. I mean, on the victim side, at least, I don't think anywhere do they have current samples of any of the DNA.
So looking at the legacy here, with a lot of these old cases, there's also a lot of superstitious legacy. There certainly is with H.H. Holmes. There certainly is with Lizzie Borden. What about Belle Gunness?
Do you mean in terms of
do people think the farm is haunted, or where she grew up? Is there any kind of legacy like that?
No, I looked pretty hard about that. There hasn't really been any haunted legends associated with it. I mean, the property doesn't exist as it was anymore. But I'm
meat grinder.
Yeah, I'm here for a haunted meat grinder, man. I would watch that movie. It's very Amityville. I love it. The Haunted Meat Grinder. We should write this movie.
We really should.
We really should.
This is criminally under-investigated, and it's really fascinating. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it.
I really hope someday we get, again, a relative or something to submit their DNA who has been like, you know what, I volunteer as tribute. But because this case is so bonkers. But that's Belle Gunness, and yes, Hell's Princess is a good resource. That's a good book. It's thorough. I haven't actually read In the Garden of Spite.
I got it. I did get it from Amazon, so I haven't read it yet, but I'm really curious. And I think, again, like, that's why it would make such a good movie, because there's so much room to speculate and to take what we have and
Mhm.
kind of fill in the gaps for people.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
as opposed to a lot of the modern ones where I think the issue is a lot of times they get the information wrong and it's really disrespectful to the victims and such. Whereas with Belle Gunness, there really isn't a right or wrong. There's just room to speculate and to maybe, explore
Well,
what happened.
because like we don't have interviews with her. We don't
Yeah.
have. We had her sister giving some quotes after this all came out, but that's kind of the closest and letters. We have letters she wrote to men
Yes.
and the ads she put, but we don't have anything firsthand from her that isn't an act.
Yeah, but just like somebody who understands the psychology of these kind of killers, putting this together and being like, okay, conceivably, this is what I think happened. Like, that would be really
Mhm.
fascinating, I think.
No, absolutely. Because I think that's what's a little maddening about this case, since she never even, I mean, even with Lizzie Borden had a trial and went and was in jail for a while and lived for a while. So there's quotes, there's interviews she gave, there's like the most we have actually, well, even then she's lying, is some of the transcripts from the inquests about her husband's death. And that's still her putting on a show. Like, we don't have unvarnished Belle Gunness. We don't have Belle Gunness that was
Who was
actually,
she?
who was she? Because we can only speculate. And I mean, there, to your point, there's not a right or wrong. Um, we, I have my theories. You have things that you think, and we just don't know. We can't talk to Jenny. We can't talk to. Uh, it's. I think that's a little of what is frustrating about this case, is because there's also not been more people aware of it until really, I mean, the last 10 to 15 years, because that's when some of the books have come out. More people have talked about her as true crime has become more
Yeah,
of a
and true crime is
phenomenon.
becoming a really big area of
Mm-hmm.
interest with people.
And so people are digging for those cases like this, that you're discovering them, going like, why is no one talking about this? This isn't. That's how I feel. It's one I'd like to talk about at some point here too. Is Linda Hazard is one for
I'm
me
gonna
that I'm
write
always
this down. By the way, guys, if you're watching, let us know if there's any particular cases you're interested in,
like,
because
yeah.
I'm willing to bet you that Kim knows all about it. So, yeah, we could absolutely have her on again and have her tell us, what she knows, what she's gotten from her investigations.
It's fun. And I will say Linda Hazard is one that does have some ghost stuff
Hazard.
associated with it.
Ooh, I like the ghost stuff.
The ghost stuff. I know. I'm always disappointed. I was like, Belle Gunness, come
I
on.
know, like, I was kind of hoping you'd give me some ghost stuff, because I
I
love that.
I tried real hard. There's just not really there. Yeah, there's nothing that's kind of notable with this one. But Linda Hazard, and she's a local. She's a Washingtonian.
You know, a lady and from Washington.
Mm,
It's ticking all the gory boxes here.
it's all the boxes, and she's another one where you're like, why do people not talk about
Do
her?
you guys want to hear about Linda Hazard? Let me know, because we can have Kim back. Kim loves to talk
I do.
about freaky things that have happened.
And there's a great book that's been written about Linda Hazard.
Really, and she has the coolest name.
She's the coolest name. Yeah, Greg Olson, Starvation Heights.
Starvation Heights. And I'd have time to read that too.
That's a great book.
So
And
tell me a little teaser on Linda Hazard.
Dr. Hazard.
She's a doctor?
Well, okay.
When did this happen?
So this was late 1800s, early 1900s. So again, another one we have in this same kind of.
I kind of like this sweet spot though, because I'm not sure if I want to go into ones where like just.
This
Sometimes
is my
there's a little
sweet
bit of
spot.
disrespect when you bring up things like Dahmer and stuff. Like, it just re-traumatizes so many people. Whereas the thing with Belle Gunness, nobody seems to know who she was.
No one knew who she was.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I like this kind of late 1800s, early 1900s. So Linda Hazard is a little teaser. She was a practitioner of alternative medicine, and she opened up a sanitarium in Olalla, Washington, where she was not a medical doctor, but there was this obscure Washington state law that allowed for practitioners of alternative medicine to be granted the title of doctor. And it was mostly meant for like Native American like medicine people, you know what I mean? But she took it. So she started going by Dr. Hazard, and she believed that any disease could be cured by fasting. Okay. Meaning not eating.
Which could easily be starving people.
Yeah.
There's a difference, but yeah, if you're somebody who's a murderer.
And she, I mean, actually, honestly, her and Belle probably would have gotten along.
So we have Quirk asking, how do you feel about the police department versus Karen Reed? I know it's not multiple murders, but I'm scared for Karen Reed's life still being in that
town. Yes. Oh man.
I don't even know who Karen Reed is.
This was recent. This was about, okay. There was, Karen Reed. She was found not guilty of the death of her boyfriend.
Okay.
Who was a Boston police officer. And oh man, this is poking some things. It highlighted some problems in the system, and then some, and some misconduct in the investigation. I'd say, I mean, it's one to do a deep dive in, but it's a recent one.
That's
so
gonna be hard. I'm not sure if I'm quite ready for that, guys.
There was an alleged cover up. There's a
it's hard when it's recent because there's so many people it affects, and you don't want to make like entertainment out of things that are.
It's that on top of
not that I'm trying to make Belle Gunness entertaining. It's just I feel like it's a safer thing to investigate.
It's that combined with the police cover up.
Yes.
And police misconduct. And yes, the fact that she is still
that's a very relevant issue right now too with police.
The politics involved in this case are more than just a simple
I'm definitely gonna
I hate saying a simple true crime. It's a really interesting case. It's kind of upsetting just with the misconduct and everything and the cover up.
How do you guys in the chat feel about discussing more recent cases? Do you think that's something that's distasteful, or is that something that you would be interested in? I mean, I know Kim can talk about these things in a very respectful way, and you know, I'm potentially open to it. I just that's just harder for me to want to go into.
And it might be one where it might even be worth doing, you know, at some point where we talk about a few more recent cases that
say like so weird. Like I watched for Valentine's Day, I watched Necromantic too. I can watch anything fictional and like just sit there with like a chicken leg and not blink. But when it comes to real stuff, like it really does upset me, especially the recent stuff.
The recent stuff is always I'm trying to think. I just did for Ghoulish. It hasn't been released yet. Juana Barraza, which for me was a lot more recent. She was primarily killing in the early 2000s in Mexico.
Yes, I do know a little bit about her.
Yeah, and then she's again fascinating. The case is fascinating, but that's a more recent thing for me personally to cover. Because I do what talking generally. I'll talk about cases that are more recent. When I do the deep dives, you do have to handle the more recent stuff differently.
Yeah.
But I'm game for whatever. I'm
open to whatever you guys are interested in. So definitely let me know in the comments, like if Linda Hazard is something that you want us to talk about here. If you want to look into more recent ones, if there's a particular one that's interesting to you that you would like us to do a deep dive on, let us know. We definitely will be having Kim back, and of course there's always ones that Kim likes to talk about the most. So
I'm gonna Jake Bird one of these days. I love Jake Bird. Jake Bird, he's one of my favorites.
You told me about Jake Bird.
I love Jake Bird. And another one where you're like, why do people not talk about this guy? It's fascinating. Yeah.
Maybe we should do a poll.
Yeah. Ooh.
Should we do a poll?
I think that's fun.
I think that's a good idea. Sorry if I'm keeping you super late.
I was like, I don't even
okay, so I'm gonna do a poll for those of you who are watching. Who should we discuss next? Okay, so what do we got? We got Jake Bird.
We got Jake Bird.
Who is Jake Bird?
So Jake Bird, again, another one who was caught locally. This was in the 1940s, and he is sometimes called the Tacoma Axe Fiend or the Tacoma Axe Murderer. And he is a man that was arrested for bludgeoning 2 women to death with an axe and went on trial. And once he was found guilty, he just started confessing to dozens of other murders.
Oh boy, Albert Fish, that's a rough one.
Oh, but Albert,
I do know a bit about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've covered him before, but man, yeah, that's an upsetting
especially
one.
when it involves little kids. Oh, and the letter he wrote her
the
parents.
letter,
my heart.
When I did that as a teen true crime a number of years ago, and reading even chunks of that letter aloud was mildly sickening. But again, it's an interesting case, but it's heartbreaking. He was a different kind of messed up.
Okay, I'm not sure if I got the spellings on these right, but I'm going to put a poll out there so you guys vote. And Kim, you would be willing to come back, yes?
Oh, absolutely.
To hang out with me and talk about messed up stuff.
I love it. I love it when you have me on. It's fun.
All right, so we have a poll. Oh, yikes. I don't have any way of voting. You could vote, Kim. You can go on.
How do I?
So you would go to the live stream that's on my channel.
Oh, and I can do it that way?
And cool. You can. It would be in the chat. So we've got Jake Bird, Linda Hazard, Albert Fish, and Karen Reed. I don't know anything about Linda Hazard, Karen Reed, or Jake Bird. I do know a little bit about Albert Fish. That's someone
we've seen the picture, the X-rays.
Yeah.
That's in my PowerPoint too, but that might not be. I do have a PowerPoint on Albert Fish. It's an older one, but yeah.
And then another one that's really upsetting is Sylvia Likens. That one's just so sad.
Yeah. I will say the one I think I said this in one of the times I was on here. The one case where you actually hear me lose it a little in the Ghoulish episode is Pedro Lopez. That was one talking about him was that was right, because he's another he killed children, and he killed
so hard.
Anywhere from 100 to 300 children, depending on whose numbers you're looking at.
To answer Quirk's question, Sylvia Likens, she is the basis of the book by Jack Ketchum, The Girl Next Door, which became a movie. It's also a movie that has Elliot Page in it called American Crime. She was a girl who was left to stay with this horrible woman who tortured her and allowed a lot of the neighborhood boys to torture her. And it's really just a sad, sad case.
And she was 16, I think, when she died. 15, 16. She was a teenager.
Yeah, so sad.
And
like I said, I can watch Necromantic and not blink an eye, but I remember I was inconsolable after watching The Girl Next Door, just because I know so much of it is taken from the real story.
The autopsy report for that case is incredibly upsetting to read.
But sometimes, so that's the other flip side of it. So especially with Sylvia Likens, one of the reasons why I think we should discuss it, because her killer should have, there was so much evidence. Sylvia even passed a note to a cop saying, "Help me." It was right there, but because it was a woman, it was in the suburbs, nobody did anything. And I think
in the
that is
60s too. It was
exactly,
the 60s.
But I think that's something that still happens now, is a lot of times people think, well, they were perfectly nice people and they don't investigate it. And so sometimes I think it's important to look at these stories because it reminds us to be diligent in, exploring these cases. You can't just say, well, the kids were just making up, or I think I know my neighbor. Like, we need to look at these cases so that we don't let it happen again.
Well, that was Arthur Shawcross for me is one that I've done a few times that always upsets me because he murdered 2 children, brutalized them and murdered them, went to jail, was released from jail. And because when he was first released, when the town he moved to was notified, like, you've got this, child murderer who's moved in, people objected, so he got like run out of town. So they didn't release the next time he moved. They didn't tell anybody why this guy who is moving into their town, what he had been convicted of, and he goes on to murder like a dozen sex workers.
That's really.
And so it's maddening because you're like, that's
the thing, like they could have prevented it, and
so preventable. And he was let out.
I think there is an importance to discussing true crime, because a lot of these things, it's not just a one and done. It's not necessarily like I'm saying the same person did it over and over again, though that does happen. But a lot of times similar situations happen, and if they had just learned from a past case, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And luckily, I guess the only good thing about discussing true crimes in modern days is people are willing to talk about it.
Yeah. And looking at flaws in the system and acknowledging
where
like
flaws did exist,
systemic problems, and what we can still do. And I also say, the DNA evidence that exists now, the way some of the cold cases they've closed recently is
interesting. I would like to hear some more about that.
Oh, that's one that, I mean, it's the kind of thing that's also, I don't want to say like, it's not heartwarming. That's not the right word. Because we are still closure. It's closure. And, oh man, there was a case, because I covered it for Ghoulish, and part of it sent me down. Okay. So, there was this woman who was murdered, and, she was, man, it was a couple years ago now that I'm trying to find her real name, because I can't remember it now because it's been long enough since I've covered the case. But anyway, it was this famous unsolved case of a woman found murdered on the beach. They finally identified her through DNA evidence. I had covered the case years ago and then was going to just do a simple update. But when I did the simple update, it took me down a whole other path of a bunch of other connected murders. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly you're looking at the man most likely responsible didn't just kill her, but killed these other people too. And so suddenly you're like,
and we're the ones connect or cross over.
These are connected, and this is a whole other level.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. I gotta find this woman's name. This is gonna drive me crazy. I'm sorry.
I think we can end our poll.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we're going to be talking about Linda Hazard next, but every single one of them on the poll did get at least a vote. So,
okay,
guys, Kim's the expert here. I'm a B movie girl expert. I know a lot about horror movies, but for me, a lot of this stuff is kind of new. So let's ease me in here. I think sticking with the 1900s for right now, but I think maybe we will, because like I said, I do think there is some good reasons to discuss some of the more modern cases, namely just to see what we can learn from them.
Yeah.
And maybe talk about how did this happen in modern day? Because a lot of times people think, this couldn't happen, and it does happen.
It does happen and still happens. And
a lot of times I like to read about these stories to know, like, maybe what not to do.
Yeah.
But like what happened to their victims. Like, I thought it was interesting reading about the dating game killer and how the one girl got away. I really wanted to know, what did she do?
I've covered the case. So that's another one at some point we can bring in here, because I've covered that. And she gave her police report's really interesting. The statement she gave and how she got away from him. Mm-hmm. It's like, brave girl who just scary. Yeah. But yeah, that's in so many cases you're like, that case. But the video from the dating game for that guy
is chilling.
It's so messed up when you know, and you're listening to his answers and you're just anyway.
That
Sorry.
Anna Kendrick movie she made that was really good. If you guys
Oh, it
haven't
was
seen
great.
it
Yeah,
really
it
well
was
done.
highly fictionalized on the actual dating game parts, but the details of his murders in it are actually very, very accurate.
Brandon wants to know, do you read brutal crime fiction?
I read horror novels, obviously,
She's
but
on Goodreads.
yeah, although I read a lot of trash romance novels
I
too,
know what
so
you read because I follow you on Goodreads.
it's because I read so much intense true
Sometimes you
crime
need a
stuff.
break. Like I was reading The Handmaid's Tale, and just with
Oh
everything
yeah.
going on in the world, I was like, okay, I need a break with something really just fun.
I'm not gonna lie, I read the worst romance novels in the planet. To be fair, I also belong to a couple reading groups that are romance novels, and it's mostly us reading the worst things we
But
can
you
find.
read a lot of fun ones. They're usually supernatural romances, and so
I like
I've
the
gotten some
super.
good recommendations from you.
There's been a couple really good super. Like I read good ones too, but I also
You need
read
a
some
palate
utter
cleanser.
trash.
You really do, especially with all the stuff that you deep dive in, because you're a lot more brave than I am. A lot of the stuff, like it's heavy.
But I read horror novels, but I like a lot of more like supernatural and monster and some of those than I mean it's part of why In the Garden of Spite doesn't actually I don't like reading a lot of the fictional accounts of partially because I think it messes with my brain a
Well,
little.
because you
Like,
need to recall the actual facts, and so you don't want
yeah,
anything that's gonna mess that up for you.
exactly.
For
And
me, I just because it's so long ago, I kind of like to speculate, like what was she like,
mhm.
just to wonder, and because I'll never really know, it's kind of interesting when someone presents like, well, maybe it was like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's I think I think the speculation bugs me because I have to try to stick to the facts.
Yes.
That reading someone's interpretation of it is interesting, but I'm like, oh, is this going to skew me? Is this? It's where a lot of the movie adaptations, I enjoy some of them, but a lot of times I'm like, oh, this.
They can be really frustrating, especially when they give you misinformation.
And so, and I'm not. I mean, but I was also that asshole during what was it the one in the Seattle Underground recently where it took place in Seattle but it really didn't, and they went to the Seattle Underground and I was like yelling at the movie screen, that's not what it looks like. Yes, yeah.
I love Malignant, but yeah.
I am, but
And that's
I
the
can be
thing,
an
though.
ass.
What I will say is a lot of them are wrong, and I don't know about you guys in the chat, but for me, that usually is what the movie will make me think. Well, then what did really happen? And that will send me down the rabbit hole to do an investigation. So I think there's some validity to it still. Like that's how I found out about the dating game guy. I watched the movie. I'm like, okay, how much of this is true?
And if I come to something prior to knowing a lot about the case, then I'm very similar. I'm fine. So I was like, okay, now you've piqued my interest about what the actual case was. Let me go do it. Once I know too much about a case, it's harder. But I love the dating
I
game.
get that with things like Dahmer, where I've read so much about it, where the fictional accounts can be more frustrating than interesting.
It's why I can't do the Ryan
Ed
Murphy
Gein one, I didn't watch that one at
No,
all.
I'm like, I
I've
can't.
read so much about that, and like Danny says, I also have a show on here that I do occasionally called Real versus Real, which is more based on movies that claim to be based on a true story and kind of looking at what the actual facts are.
Inspired by.
Yeah, because that is something that interests me.
Yeah. And I love the stories behind, even when it's like inspired by, I end up, well, that was how I ended up doing a deep dive on the guy that inspired the Scream movies, which had almost nothing
Nightmare
to do.
Files just did one of those too, which was really good.
Ooh. Because it's you're like, this was so loosely connected. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see what inspires. It's interesting to see how this ended up like this.
I kind of wish more movies did that. Like, they didn't claim to be based on a true story. It just took inspiration from things. But
I like the inspired by actual events because because again, you can kind of let go of the I'm waiting for this to piss me.
I agree. And I think there are just some of them where we need to give it a rest with Bundy and Dahmer, and at this point, like, what else is there to say?
What else is there to say? I mean, The only thing at this point I want to hear about any of some of the big ones, your Ridgways, your Bundy. I mean, with Ridgway, when he dies, I'll be real happy when I hear he's dead. But with some of those is if they've identified new victims.
Yeah,
If they
updates.
found
Like I was
somebody,
interested when they were talking about the Zodiac killer recently because I thought they might have cracked some of that. But
I mean, they
that
say
one
it.
would be kind of interesting just because it was in the news recently, like a couple years ago.
It was. I did. Well, because that was how the whole. I don't know if you know about the whole Grimace thing that's now become part of the Crypticon True Tales, but I did a thing for Zodiac a couple years ago at Crypticon, and I inadvertently pulled one of the crime scene photos I pulled. I'm usually really good at checking, and I think I was making like 3 or 4 PowerPoints for Crypticon, and it was a reputable website, so I didn't double check the picture. Mm-hmm. And what I didn't realize till I was giving the presentation is that someone had photoshopped Grimace into the crime scene.
Wow. That was probably awful.
It was a really good Photoshop. But it's become a running joke now that Grimace did it. So Grimace was the Zodiac killer.
Makes sense.
I photoshopped him now into other cases I've done at Crypticon.
Wow.
So it's
I need to see some of those.
It's become a thing.
Well, I have talked your ear off for almost 3 hours. So, and I appreciate all of you guys in the chat. Always awesome to hang out with Quirk and Adam and Brandon. Danny, of course, is awesome. And Fiore, wonderful to hang out with you guys. And we are absolutely going to have Kim back. Kim's just fantastic. And she's just such a wealth of knowledge. Of course, if you want more from Kim, and you absolutely should, check out Ghoulish Tendencies, which is her podcast where they talk about hauntings, they talk about true crime, they talk about just kind of macabre things in the world. It's really, really fascinating. And these are ladies who know their stuff. So absolutely, you can check it out on any place where you get your podcasts, and there are links in the description below. Also some recommendations down there of some podcast episodes you might like based on what we talked about tonight. And next time it looks like we're going to talk about Linda Hazard. I'm going to read the book. I'm going to do my research. Nice. And yeah, and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Is there anything you're working on right now that you want to promote?
Anyone coming to Emerald City Comic Con? I'm going to be doing a panel there. On Saturday, March 7th from 7 to 9 on Bone Back Comedy of Horror Film Festival and Horror Comedy with Steve, who runs the festival. So that's going to be fun. And I'm excited to get to talk about some horror comedy for something lighter. I don't know if I get to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But awesome. That should be a good time. Otherwise, a lot of what I'm doing is I am directing an alarming amount of children's theater right now. So, if you have a burning desire to see Shrek Jr. anytime soon, let me know.
Kinda. Shrek is love and Shrek is life.
Shrek is life, yeah. And also, my interpretations of some of these shows can often be entertaining. So.
And what's coming up on Ghoulish?
Oh, on Ghoulish, we've got a 2-part Juana Barraza one coming out soon. Because we've gotten, man, poor Gabby, with her school schedule now, it's sticking to our more regular recording schedule has been a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, we will have, we should have had an Ask Ghoulish that would have just come out. And then our next one is a 2-parter on Juana Barraza. So that should be a good thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you so much, Kim. Update on this channel. I don't think I'm going to be doing the Wednesday streams as a regular thing anymore. It'll be something I'll throw out there if I have something I want to talk about. Because I did just start a new job, but I am live every Sunday. I think next week I plan on talking about that Scream 7 movie that's coming out. I'm super excited for that. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me, and until we meet again, blessed be.